So this is part of a series of Hades streams where I'm doing 32 heat, boonless, and mirrorless. Mirrorless kind of self-explanatory, no mirror. Boonless just means that if I get a boon at any point in the run, I cannot use it and I have to sell it when I can. It's one in a series of 6. I did every weapon. This had been done once before by Nana, which inspired me to do this. She did it once with the rail with Hestia. And so I wanted to use a different rail aspect and also use all 5 other weapons because I thought it would be really fun and interesting, right? To be the first person to do it and also just to showcase the different weapons. I just thought this is a really neat challenge. It's a little different than like speedrunning, for instance. The footage here is from a little while back. I recorded these all in February and March, I believe. And then I was super duper sick, which is unfortunate. I was a bit under the weather. So I don't remember exactly every single thing I did, which will make it fun for me to watch. And also the guests haven't seen it ever before. So it'll be super fun for everybody to watch. With that being said, I think we're going to hop into this one. I'm going to start the little death here that proves that we're unseated. And then we can just kind of talk about things, right? So this is the beginning here. As with all these, you just got to start it off, well, I guess on a pause screen. Starting off showing that we are unseated for the run here. So, Bian, what do you think? I know you said you don't have too much experience, but what do you think about the Gilgamesh gloves before we get to actually start here?
They were like the regular gloves, but slower. And also they did maim, which I think was an enemy hurts itself when it attacks. Was that right?
So the enemy hurts itself after a set amount of time. A co-op stream, yeah. The enemy hurts itself after a set amount of time. It's kind of, maim is almost exactly like Doom for anybody who's unfamiliar with the gloves.
Oh, then why not just call it Doom?
Well, because it also does special things with like you take more damage and the enemy takes more damage while they're maimed.
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
So that's actually a good thing we should probably talk about while we hop into this before we actually get into the thing. So we're using the Gilgamesh gloves, which are the hidden aspect, right? I don't think I've used any hidden aspects for these that we've went over yet. I'll leave it back on this screen again, maybe if I can time it. But yeah, the Gilgamesh gloves.
I liked the little middle ground that you got for a second there.
The little transparency.
Yeah, it was cute.
The Gilgamesh gloves do extra damage compared to the regular gloves, but they're slower. They give you 2 extra dashes that are a little different than the regular dashes because you have to like hold them in, to hold the dash button to do them. You can't like give them that little break time period in between dashes.
Yeah, I didn't figure that out at all.
And then they also have maim, which you do with a dash uppercut. Yeah, I like it a lot too, Ninja. Which you do with a dash uppercut, which as we were just speaking on a moment ago, it will have the enemies be maimed for an amount of time, right? And during that time, they can do extra damage to you, and you will also do extra damage to them. And then when that time runs out, they'll take a set amount of damage, which is 400. That can be affected by things if you were doing like a normal run with boons. But in this, it won't. It will be 400, right? But with that being said, we have the Pact on the screen here. I think I mentioned this before. I don't think I ever changed the Pact for any of these runs. And that's because the Pact is catered to my style more than the weapon. And that's we don't use the word slow around here. We like to be precise and, tactical, strategic, right? But no, I don't like tight deadline. I don't like going fast. So a lot of the things here just have to do with making the enemies have more health as opposed to making them more difficult or rushing me. And that's kind of the general gist of the pack here. If you want to check out this Pact made a run to see the specifics or anything, you can do !Pact in chat. But yeah, Bian, unless you have any thoughts on the Pact here, I think we can hop into it.
No, yeah, let's go. Let's mesh the Gilg.
I honestly, you said mesh and I didn't know where you were going with that. I'm kind of ashamed of myself. So again, this is kind of something we touch on. Actually, I guess I should have introduced what we were doing in general. We're doing a 32 heat boonless and mirrorless run, right? I don't think I said that. So boonless meaning that even if I pick up a boon, I can't use it throughout the entire run. And mirrorless means I'm not using any of the mirror aspects, which affects a lot of things, including like the single dash and no death defiance throughout the run. So it just adds extra challenge to the 32 heat. With the boonless, as you can see, you either start with a boon or a dataless hammer at the beginning of a run. And in this case, we got a boon. And we also got offered attack, special, and cast. So that means that I have to choose one of these 3 to not be able to use going forward. I've mentioned this before, but I'm almost always going to choose cast in this case because I can't actually get a God's cast, which means I just have the generic Zagreus cast. and you only have one of them because you have no mirrors. So it's going to be lodged in an enemy. It's going to do 100 damage, which is nice, but then it's just going to be lodged in an enemy for an extended period of time. I'd much rather have my attack and special.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Something else to definitely touch on right at the beginning, I'll be using Shattered Shackle. I use it for all the 32 heat boonless, mirrorless runs, and it kind of just makes sense because Shattered Shackle is a keepsake that makes you do double damage if you don't have a boon on your cast, special, or attack. It would make the respective one do double damage, and then once you get a boon on it, it wouldn't. So in a typical run, that's kind of like an interesting choice, but on a run like this, that's kind of like it's a given. It's just doubling my damage for the entire run.
That makes sense.
So that's why I said a moment ago that my cast does 100 damage, because the Zagreus cast generically usually just does 50, but now it would do 100, which is nice. You know, if you have all three, you can throw the cast out at times, especially with a weapon like this that doesn't have a projectile. But if you have to get rid of something, it's going to be the cast. And so right away, you know, I kind of touched on the fact that Gilgamesh has double dashes, or not double, but extra dashes. But immediately you can see just the maneuverability of me getting close faster. But also, I think that's just a very important thing for this run in general. And that's because you don't even have to think of it as having 3 dashes, because like I said, you have to hold the button to use them. You kind of, at least my mind, how I thought about it with avoiding things was think of it more like one big dash, right?
Yeah, you can just get like all the way across the screen with one dash, basically.
Correct. And if you even think, I know we're in the beginning, but if you think of like the Hades fight, you know, he does his big circle attack, you can get out of dodge. You can't really do that with one dash with other weapons. You have to be more careful of where you are in general.
Right. Oh, interesting. You didn't take chaos? Oh, well,
It's a boonless run.
Yeah. Duh.
Yeah, so can't take chaos. I did, however, get a key here, which, you know, wasn't a choice. It wasn't like I selected it out of options. But something to point out, and we talked about this in the previous ones, but the items that are useful for the house, which would be the key, the nectar, the gems, and the darkness, things that don't affect your actual run, when you get late enough in the game, through the contractor, you get things that do make them affect your actual run. So the key here gives me the ability to re-roll a room. So if they offer me, like Ares, for instance, and I don't want to take a boon, I can re-roll it in hopes of getting like a centaur heart or money instead.
Right.
You can't re-roll house items to be something that's not a house item. So you can't re-roll a key to be a heart. If you re-roll a house item, it'll just change from a key to darkness or from a key to nectar. It'll just stay, like there's 2 categories of things that it can roll into.
It won't go to a boon. Okay.
Correct.
That's good.
Yep.
Well, good for what you're doing, at least.
Yeah. Well, house items are always... They're good to see because I did just mention that like they will help my run after you get the contractor upgrade, but also just because they're not a boon. Anything that's not a boon is typically good to see, even if it doesn't help. I know one of the things in the community for Hades that's kind of like frowned upon with Gilgamesh is that the dash attack on it only does 20 damage, which for anybody who's experienced with Hades is very low damage.
Yeah, that's not a lot.
Right? I think that's lower than the shield standard attack, and the shield's thing is to be weak. Right.
Yeah.
However, its not dashing attacks do pretty good damage. You can see I'm doing 120 per swipe, and its dash uppercut does I think 40, which would be 80 with the Shattered Shackle. But yeah, so the dash attack isn't great, but for my playstyle, for me specifically, I don't feel like that really holds me back.
We're already seeing the random traits from the shielded enemies.
Correct.
With
yeah.
The lasers.
Yep, and they always have 2, so it's not that they can have up to 2 from benefits package. So they do have one more. I couldn't really tell what it was. You can look next to their health bar. They'll have little icons that'll show what it is.
Oh, nice.
But it was something that didn't impact it too much. So.
Right.
Do not mess with me right now.
Something again I've talked about on a previous stream is the enemies that come out. Like jury summons makes there be more of them, but it's still more to relative to how many there would be to begin with. So like the big muscular guy there, he, there's never going to be like 30 of him in a room. He's not like the little skulls. So even though there'll be more of him, it'll just go from 2 to 3 or from 3 to 4,
The enemies have like actual names, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
Like types of enemies.
Yeah, they do all have.
I feel like you would have memorized them by now, but I guess not.
No.
Just big muscly guy.
Yeah, no, I'm terrible with it.
Just big muscly guy.
I think those guys are the louts. I was getting ready to say I don't know if there's any that I know the name of off the top of my head. So this is what we were seeing with MAME. In general, my swipes were doing like 120, but once I did the MAME on the lout and then swiped him, it was doing like 135.
Question. So like the shielded is it the shielded enemies that have extra 2 hits that they can't take any damage with?
Are you saying armored enemies?
Yeah.
So yeah, the yellow health bar is armored because the shielded enemies would just be the guys with shields later. Or like Theseus. No, so with the heat that I have on, the Pact of Punishment, every single enemy can take 2 extra hits. Which is what Biane is referring to right now.
So
damage
how does
control, I believe it's called.
How does that work with status effects? So like if you hit them with maim and then run away, does the hit from maim count against those 2 hits?
Yes. So anything that would damage them, same with like the traps. If they step onto a trap, that counts. Any damage that they would take counts towards the benefits package.
Gotcha.
As you can see here, you're seeing a bit of the drawback of this weapon for me, which is, or I shouldn't even say for me, just in general, for this challenge, is the fact that it is one of the few melee-only weapons in this game, right? It and the sword, I suppose, are the only ones that don't have a projectile. All right, so here we go. We get, we talk about this every time with this, but the hammers are like the only build that I have in this. So we get to the first one here. I think I end up taking the bottom one. I know I don't take the middle one, right? The reason that I'm not going to take Flying Cutter is because I don't want anything that messes with my special, because I really like it as it is, because you can hit stun lock people with the special. I think I've done that a few times. I don't know if I've really talked about it, but you can kind of just like uppercut them and like fade away, because you can kind of control him while he's doing the uppercut and then do it again.
Oh, nice.
And you'll see that a lot in this run, so it's not even like we have to go back to find an instance of it. But yeah, as White Fire saying, Breaching Cross, pretty good. And then Concentrated Knuckle, it's objectively isn't it? It's passively good. It does do a positive thing. It has a positive effect. But I think I chose Breaching Cross because I was like, Concentrated Knuckle just isn't going to make that big of a difference or that noticeable of a difference. Whereas Breaching Cross is something you can use intentionally. Like if you find an armored enemy, remember to dash strike the armored enemy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, when I was playing, I almost immediately got rid of my special for the little
kick.
Backflip kick.
Yeah. And that's another thing. If I saw that, it would be a similar thing where I'm not going to go for anything. The special with this gloves, the uppercut, is the same as the special with the regular gloves. And so that was one of the reasons that I wanted to do this kind of challenge thing, was so that people could see using a weapon just for the core weapons ability as opposed to relying on boons and builds. And so that works with all the gloves in this game, is you can do an uppercut and hit stun loop any enemy other than like the swordsman in Elysium. So that's very useful. That's actually another thing that I like about Gilgamesh, is that by default, and I think we'll see that here, I think I end up getting a boon that takes away my special or something like that. But when you're doing this challenge, you can go one of 2 routes, which is either choose a weapon that has one thing that's particularly good, like the Zagreus Bow's attack is particularly good, and then go out of your way to like take anything that's not the attack when it comes to like boons that you have to take that are going to make it harder for you. It's like spare the attack at all costs. Or you can take one where you can afford to lose your special or your attack and still be able to play with that weapon. That's how Gilgamesh works here, is that I felt confident using just the attack or just the special with this weapon. As you can see, there's only 2 things that could matter in a Charon shot for me, which is the health that you see on the screen and the Centaur Heart, which increases your max health. I didn't go for that health on the screen right there for 90, even though I'm not at max health, and like 16 is not a big number, but it's a big number relative to 80 being your max. Yeah. But I didn't take it because the Centaur Heart in his shop costs 225 and I have 217.
Right.
So I was like, I want to get to the 225 if possible. I didn't take the Charon fight in the beginning of Tartarus. But I should actually say, I think Zach, the previous guest, asked me what my favorite enemy is, and I think we got around to it by the end of the conversation, but I think Charon is my single favorite fight in this game.
Really?
Yeah.
I fought him one time, and he whooped my ass, and then I decided never again.
I actually don't know if this is like a hard-coded thing. I don't know if anybody else knows or could let me know. Oh, I'm in a survival room, which is probably relevant to what I'm getting ready to say. But I was going to say that I feel like when you get a room with no armored enemies, you get higher spawn rates, which would make sense.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot, dude. And you got hit a couple times already for these bitch-ass skulls.
So that's actually a good thing to point out is when I'm in a room like this, so I'm in a survival room, you'll see in the top left corner.
Oh,
I'm not
trap.
in, I don't have to defeat these enemies. I could just run away. But that's
Yeah.
kind of always a dilemma because, you know, like running away, you can just get trapped. Also, something to point out, I just mentioned the 225 a moment ago. Killing enemies in this does give you coins. So that's encouragement to fight more as opposed to just running away.
Decidedly below my expectations.
The perfect gift.
I feel like you probably could have got the health though
Something I can use.
and been safe, and then you still spend it on. Oh, I guess that was just max health. Okay.
So, I didn't know. Well, I didn't know that I was gonna get a timed room like that because there can be rooms that you get that don't have much gold from enemies in general. But since that room, the enemies are gonna infinitely spawn for 45 seconds. That's your chance to like farm gold if you so desire.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
I know you said got the health here. That's actually a good point. This was a really good draw for
Yeah.
Charon Well because the Charon Well, other than the hammers and just finding centaur hearts, it's the only thing that can affect my run, like my abilities while fighting. And the centaur soul that you see at the top is my favorite thing to get on a run. A boonless mirrorless 32 heat run. It's my single favorite thing that I can get because it is a centaur heart. It doesn't heal you, but it gives you the 25 max health, and it costs
it's not
less.
affected by the negative, right?
Not affected by the negative what?
Don't you have like a heat that lowers the amount that you get from a centaur heart, or am I making that up?
No. What you're saying, I know what you're talking about, and it lowers the amount that I get healed by healing items, but it doesn't affect things that increase my max health.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so a centaur heart increases my max health by 25, but doesn't increase my health. But I'm fine with it not increasing my health because I'll just fill my health up later with a fountain or something, right? And it costs less than a centaur heart. So that's always my favorite thing to see. And then the thing at the bottom is also one of my favorite things to see because it lasts for 8 encounters. It increases your speed by 20%. Both those things are very useful, right? It's a good length and it's a very useful passive to gain. And it's just so cheap. That's with the money increase that it costs 18.
That's your dollar store boost.
Yeah, your dollar store Ichor. Is that how you pronounce that? Ignited Ichor? Icor? I don't know.
I have no idea. I've never seen that word before in my life.
Yeah, we're not. I don't know. I was gonna say from Greek, but I don't think that has anything to do with that word, does it?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
This boss is. I mean, I guess you can. I should just let it rock for a second. I guess you can tell. Is a really good boss to draw.
Why?
That might be. Oh, this is also a case of middle management. The difference here, when you fight this boss normally, there's not gaps on the floor that you have to dash across or traps that you can step on. It's normally just in a little room. So that's the difference here. But like this boss, especially with these gloves, you can just maim him and get attacks off. And while he's armored, he has a laser that like encompasses the screen. Like it does a direction, goes out in different directions. But once he's not armored, he can't do that. There'll still be lasers between him and his buddies. As you can see, there's one on the screen there.
Yeah.
But he won't attack with lasers that lead to not his buddies. And so he was just like the perfect draw. Because the other ones would be the Shadow Sneaks or the Bombers. And they're not necessarily hard either, but you just can't vaporize them as quick as you can do this guy. So this is why we don't like Ares. Well, we don't like Ares for a lot of reasons. But yeah, like Whitefire says, is that the hit stun is preventing him from doing it. It's not that he can't do it without armor. I guess I should clarify that. This is a bad draw from Ares because the bottom one...
Giving up special, I guess. Is that the one that you're going to take?
Exactly. The bottom one I can't take because then I can't attack enemies. And the middle one is way too risky because I could literally not hit... Well, I don't know exactly how the rules work. If I could use the boon, but if it doesn't hit anybody, I'm good. I just don't ever use a single boon, right? I won't even like attack open air with the special if I pick the special, you know?
I feel like trying to grab the dash would be too inconsistent with trying not to hurt somebody with a blade rift that you have no control over.
Exactly. That's exactly correct. So I did my little scroll through a couple times there because I was like, I really didn't want to take the special, but I kind of had to come to grips with the fact that I just did not have a choice there.
Yeah.
So the reason that this is a decision is because going to the exclamation point is usually a really good thing to see because you can get health or coins, which are both beneficial to the run. But the darkness, like I said, they get from the house contractor, they get boosts. The boost that it gets is that it increases your max health by 5. So 5 is not a lot, but it's still literally increasing my max health, which is not something that this room can do. This room can give me money or just regular health refill.
Plus, I feel like you'd have an opportunity to get more darkness later on anyway.
I feel like we jumped right into like the tactics and the fighting of the game. But we can always just stop to appreciate some Hades, right? Because I love the fact that I think I'm going after the vases. I never know how to correctly say that word, and I will say it both
They're
ways.
both acceptable, I'm pretty sure.
See, I was gonna say I'll say it both ways every time to cover my tracks. But I'm going after those up top. We'll go with pots. I'm going after the pots, but I hit the little guys, and then Sisyphus is like, "Why shoot those shades away?" It's the small touches, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you just got rid of his friends.
So that's actually interesting. I didn't remember. That was something else I wanted to clarify. I did these runs quite a while ago. I think into February, early March. And then I was under the weather, so I wasn't able to do these recordings to talk about them. So I don't remember the runs like they were yesterday. You know, I know my general thought process when I'm playing and things that I'm doing, but I don't remember my exact decisions mid-fight. So I wasn't sure which one I was going to take here because I'm not at full health and I don't have my special and I have to beat the first boss like that, right? But also, I don't have enough money to afford a Centaur Heart. So I made the metagame decision. I was like, look, if I'm going to beat the whole thing, you got to think late game, right?
Yeah.
I gotta.
Oh, and then you got darkness on the next room anyway, so.
Yep, that worked out pretty well. So this is what I was talking about with these guys. There's only 3 on screen at a time, even though I'm doing jury summons. And that's convenient. They're also not armored, so this is kind of give me a nice little gimme room. I don't know if I talked about this on stream, but I do pause a lot throughout these runs and take breaks because, well, my runs take kind of long. So I'm going to skip through those. I'm not going to skip any content. I will go back to the unpausing, but.
So I'm going to sound like a noob real quick. What the hell is that circle on the floor?
I think it's going to be relevant after I clear this room, so I'll talk about it then.
Gotcha.
One good thing about rooms and Hades and fighting during this challenge is when you can get a spawn spot isolated from the other enemies. So right now there's 2 enemies over by my webcam, right? A little bit off screen. And then there's this one enemy that I'm just fighting right here, and I can defeat him, and he'll just respawn right there. And then I can go defeat the next one until they're finished their respawning. This one didn't. He came over this way. But a lot of times there'll be rooms where you can be like, all the enemies are off screen except one, and you can just keep destroying him and letting him respawn until it's out of that enemies to spawn in, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So this is, I'm actually kind of glad this happened because like I feel like MAME is the main selling point of Gilgamesh. I mean, the dashes are good too, right? I feel like the main use for Gilgamesh for people that play with it for high heat challenges, for like different things in Hades, is the dashes, and then they just get really good dash boons and everything. Obviously, that's not relevant to what I'm doing right now. But I feel like Gilgamesh isn't appreciated or liked very much in the community outside of the dashes. I don't know, maybe that's just my bias. Maybe it's because I do like it so much. But this, I feel like, is a good showcase for I've lost the special, which means I've lost MAME, and you lose the special being just the uppercut that all the gloves have. So that I talked about can hit stun lock almost every enemy in the game.
Right.
So this is just, hey, let's find out what Gilgamesh's attack can do, right? And I feel like it's not lacking damage output, especially 120 per swipe. Even if the dash swipes only do 40, you know, it's still 120 per swipe. So this is an example of the cloned enemies that can come from a benefits package. These guys up top here aren't real enemies. They do real damage, but like I have to kill the not clone to get rid of them. Also, if the original one has armor, the clone ones will have armor as well. All clones only have 1 HP, so it only takes 1 hit to get rid of their armor, 1 hit to get rid of their health. But yeah, they're kind of... The reason I attacked the ones up top there, even though it didn't do anything, was just because they were a burden. It takes them a second to spawn new clones. Let me get rid of these and then take advantage of that second.
Right.
Cool. So this room where Biane said, let me be a noob real quick, that is an Erebus room, which gives you a no-hit challenge. So the reward there you can see has a skull, which means it's a double reward. So in the case of a palm, it would upgrade a boon twice instead of once.
Nice. If
it's health, instead of being 25 health for a Centaur Heart, it would be 50. So it just doubles your thing. If it's a boon, it would have extra high rarity. So it like makes your reward enhanced the same way that a mini boss room would. But the challenge is you have to go down there and do a difficult fight. The fight is more difficult than the area you're in. So I'm in Tartarus. It would be a harder fight than Tartarus normally would have. By the time you get to Erebus, I think they can summon mini bosses. By the time you get to Elysium, I meant. If you go in a room like this, it can summon mini bosses. You can only go to these with a certain amount of heat. By the time you get to 32, I can do all of them throughout the run. And there's a couple strategies for these. If there was a Centaur Heart there, I would probably just go for it regardless, because that's 50 health if I can defeat it. In Tartarus, they're going to be the easiest they're going to be. Again, they're still harder than Tartarus in general. but also a strategy that you'll sometimes see me use. If the next room, I can see on screen right now that the next room is a shop, but if the next room was like Ares boon, for instance, I might go to Erebus, even if Erebus was a different boon. Erebus was, if Erebus was Artemis's boon, and the next room was Ares boon, right? Just two different gods' boons. I might go to Erebus and lose on purpose.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I get nothing, but I don't have to take a boon. Here, obviously, I'm just going to take this trial for 113 health. Maybe. Definitely.
Maybe.
And I feel like the attack, especially in Tartarus here, is doing good damage and gets rid of enemies pretty quick. So I didn't feel like this was too risky to take. Unfortunately, I did talk about...
You got grabbed?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I did talk about earlier how I don't like tight deadline or time trials or going fast, speed running. And that's exactly what a trove is, if you want to get the most out of it.
Slow.
Yeah. Thankfully, my health isn't that high to begin with. Like right now, I only need, what, 61 health to reach max. So I can afford to not go super duper fast.
Yeah, that was super beneficial.
Also, I believe in a trove fight. Actually, I want to check this while I'm here. No, okay. I was going to say, I believe you still make money from the enemies. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I didn't make any here. I started with 228 and I finished with 228. I didn't know if maybe I made enough money to go to the shop, you know? Well, I mean, I can go to the shop anyway, but made enough money for a Centaur Heart.
For a Centaur Heart, yeah.
But thankfully, I had enough money, and thankfully, he offered one. All right.
Dang, just barely, too. One thing I've noticed, just comparing my gameplay with yours, you notice the vases that give you gold right away. And I miss them all the time.
Okay, so Whitefire just put in chat something that I actually didn't even know. You think that each room has a gold drop cap, which I might have reached during the normal fight. I didn't know that.
Oh, interesting.
As you can see, you were talking about noticing the gold vases. Noticing a fish is also very important. If you're going to play this game and you want to do like a 32 heat boomless, mirrorless, it is very important to catch all the fish. Also, since you pointed out that I see the gold, I'm going to point out that I missed one here because behind Charon, that blue one is a gold one.
Oh, those blue ones give you gold too? I saw them when I like played on your save file before, but I didn't know what they do, and I like noticed that I missed one as I was leaving a room.
Yep. So if you see the... Also, again, time to appreciate the game when you're watching it as opposed to playing it live. Look at these beautiful random statues. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, there's a lady standing tall, and there's... I don't know what those guys are doing. I guess it's supposed to imply the Furies, right?
She looks like a nun.
Because like she's torturing... Well, she's holding him by the hand. It's the Furies, yeah. But if you look next to those statues, you'll see a blue flame. I'm assuming that's why it's not gold and it's blue. It's just the tent of Charon's shop.
Gotcha.
Because I believe if they were in like the bottom part of the screen where the blue flames weren't, they might be gold, but I don't know that for certain. So this is Extreme Measures 1. You don't just fight one sister. Here we get Electo, which I think is the most difficult draw, especially not helpful with the weapon that I'm using because you can't even really keep distance from her. And she, I feel like she's just like increased Meg, right? By default, even without Meg helping her. She does a lot of attacks that are similar to Meg's, but just more threatening. Like, for instance, she has the attack where she shoots out projectiles like Meg does. It's not identical, but they both shoot out projectiles in like set amount of directions. She can do that while moving towards you. Like, she can come at you and still be shooting projectiles out of her body. Whereas Meg just stands in place and kind of makes them turn. But yeah, this is Extreme Measures, which means that there'll be another Fury in the fight with the main Fury. I can't hurt Meg, but she's there, you know? And she'll do attacks throughout. So this is the attack I was talking about. Right now, because we're only in the first phase, and because she doesn't have Rage, she'll just stand in place and do it. Her Rage bar, as you can see up there, you lower by attacking her. So it's kind of like rewards you for being aggressive. And when she reaches Rage, she becomes drastically different, as in more difficult. Well, not drastically different wasn't a fair way to put it. Her attacks just become a little more difficult.
I literally never once noticed that rage bar until you pointed it out to me one day.
Yeah.
And this was like long after I was already done playing the game.
So this is what I was talking about. You can see here that she's doing the dash while the attack is still coming out. But no, actually, I think that's fair of you to say, to be honest, because I didn't really notice it or know that damaging her lowered it for the longest time until I was doing like difficult challenges like this.
Yeah.
I was going to say like this and Fresh File, but she's not in Fresh File, so that's not relevant. So there's Meg doing her attack there.
Oh, wow. You just got a lot of damage done to you.
Yeah, because I was like standing in the center of Meg's attack. There's her dashing with projectiles with 4 blades on screen. with Meg also doing her thing. So this is a bit of a situation. I think I debated here. I don't know if I did or not. Debated using Antos, which is my companion, which summons Achilles to attack for me. It's kind of just like an internal debate in my mind of like, can I survive this fight without using it? I think is a cheeky tactic I'm going for here. A fun thing for the Electo fight, the arena is always the same. And if you look at the arena, down where her 2 saw blades are, you'll see that there's spike traps that you can step on. I think this is so fun. I don't know how much I did it in this fight, but I think this is so fun. For anybody who doesn't know, Electo takes damage from those too, including when she's doing her little float backflip thing that she's doing right now. So if you don't want to attack her between the red circle attacks that she's doing to you, you can just kite her like you do Hades, where you walk around the pillars. You can just kite her around those traps and she'll step on them and take damage. Nice. Like right there.
Oh.
And I only got 1 hit right there, but I'm kind of just doing it on purpose. Like I'm just running around those traps and not really even trying to melee her. And she'll take damage from that. I think I do it again right here. It didn't really work though.
No. Dang. You're taking a lot more damage than I was expecting.
Yeah, I mean, attack only against an Electo fight wasn't really a good draw.
Oh, that's true.
And I feel like Meg's attack honestly did the most damage to me, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't end up having to use Antos, so that was good. I took a lot of damage, but it's recoverable. Another thing, late contractor for anybody who doesn't know. Well, I guess the contractor is that they drop gems as well. But when you've beaten the bosses on a certain amount of heat already, they'll drop, not certain amount of heat isn't the exact way to put it, but when you've got all the heat rewards throughout, they'll eventually just start dropping, darkness. I couldn't think of the word. Darkness instead, and it still gives you the +5 health benefit. So every boss that I defeat, I get +5 health as well. Just kind of a nice little thing.
The Fury seem incapable of
That's cold.
So something I mentioned before, it didn't become super duper relevant here. It's only got me up to like 158. But one of the good things about doing a boonless run is that you have to sell your boons. And so like you're not necessarily rooting for good boons because you don't need them. But it is nice to get good boons because they sell for more. So
Yeah. So you get more.
So like right there, I just got $155. Dollars? Obolites. Obols?
Dollars.
They're not even obolites. That's returnal. Obols.
Nowhere to
So
go.
that's nice.
Nice to know that Hades is a capitalist-run society.
Absolutely. It's interesting in a run like this because like you mentioned how much damage I was taking, which is fair. I was taking a lot. I thought that the gloves would be among the most difficult, so I wasn't too surprised. But it's interesting in a run like this because my player character, right, like Zag, my damage, my build, it's not going to get progressively better other than like the hammers. So like,
Yeah.
Unless the hammers do something special, this is the amount of damage I'm going to do to enemies throughout the whole run, right?
Man, can't wait till you get to Hades and it takes a half an hour.
Yeah, exactly. But I say that to say that, like, normally you think Tartarus real easy, later levels hard. I don't know, but like it could go both ways for this because like I have less health and my build's not gonna get better, so later levels aren't gonna be easy from a build standpoint, which kind of goes against what I just said. Like I feel like sometimes when you watch people play regular runs, the end can be the easiest part for them, right? Because they just have such a good build. It's like the Hades fight is not even actually a fight; it's just like a foregone conclusion.
They just stand still and have a boon that does damage when they take damage, and they just don't have to do anything.
Yeah, naturally. For anybody who doesn't know, Bian is referencing somebody actually did a YouTube video where you have enough of those built and you can do that. Those, however, the Vengeance boons, I believe they're called, are terrible for me in this run because if I get hit, I immediately lose the whole run because they're going to hurt the enemy that hits me.
Oh, dang.
Here we're back to another one where it's like an obvious pick. You know, I could take attack and use my special instead, but always start with cast.
Yeah.
Which is why I wasn't worried about using my like shuffle when I saw her right away as like the Aphrodite as the first room to go to. And then whenever you get offered boon or not boon, see, that's easy decision, right? So that's why I'm going for the money here.
Did we mention that this is a world record?
Yeah, no. So
Yeah, no.
so what Bian's saying is kind of right, and it's kind of something that I'm proud of and I think is fun. But I don't think record's the way to necessarily put it because that implies that like people are trying
dude, it's a
to
record.
up it or go
Don't
higher.
sell yourself short.
But what he's referencing is the fact that, as far as I'm aware, within the community, nobody's done 32 heat, boonless, mirrorless with this aspect. It's been done with one single aspect, and as part of this challenge, I wanted to do it with every single weapon, which includes the one aspect that it was done with. For that weapon, I used a different aspect. So basically 6 new aspects, and I guess I'd be the first person to ever do it with multiple weapons, or with every weapon, or with any weapon other than the one that it was already done with. So that's what we're looking at here.
It's a world record. I don't care what you say. Get Guinness all up in here.
So as we can see, it's still going a little rough for me. I'm still a little low on health and such right now, right? That room had a bunch of those guys. You guys know the ones, right? Little snake out of the ground guys. They're not necessarily
Those guys.
the ones that were literally on the screen a second ago. They're not necessarily the hardest enemy to deal with, but it was a lot of them, and they were all armored. So
Man, he swiped a lot.
yeah. So this is something I don't think I've talked about this run. I don't know if it affects that guy specifically or not, but there are enemies where armored versions do different things, right? So that could make him swipe more. I don't know. That's a cool looking explosion when you pause it.
It really is though.
But here you'll see the breaching cross that I took. You'll see the dash attack just like got rid of his armor.
Yeah.
It is only the dash attack. It doesn't work for the dash uppercut. It doesn't work for the standing in place attack. So it kind of adds more variance to this run, to be honest, because it gives me a reason to use the attack earlier that I was talking about how weak it was, only doing 40 damage. I didn't do the actual math and find out DPS wise, but I feel like the attack does more damage than the hit stun lock with the uppercut. So if I just have one enemy in place, I usually just do the attack swipe back and forth.
Who's Malphon?
That's the name of the gloves. Like I'm using the Gilgamesh aspect, but the gloves themselves.
Right.
The fists of Malphon. You'll see me like there specifically. That's actually a really good example. You'll see me do the uppercut on those 2 Gorgons, is that what they're called, that are together. And after I do the uppercut, I kind of like fade away like a basketball shot to the screen's right. So I guess Zag's left to try and not get hit by their attack. So you do have some maneuverability while he's doing his uppercut. The most common way that you'll see me do that is I'll uppercut and then like fade, like I said, fade away like that. How I'm moving backwards after I'm uppercutting.
Oh, okay.
And that's not super important for that Gorgon that I was just hitting there, but like if you're fighting a rat, for instance, in Styx that can like attack you up close just by biting, you want to hit it but also get out of the range to get hit by it.
Man, you are not sitting very pretty, dude. Will he even make it through Hades?
Yeah, will he even make it through Asphodel?
It's definitely not already a foregone conclusion.
Definitely not. No, and I think even, again, it's been a while since I actually did play the run, but I think even in the moment, I wasn't too worried here, because, like, yes, I'm low on health, but a lot of that was lost in the boss fight, and also, I don't know, I just feel like Asphodel is not that scary, so it's up to me to execute, right? Put the pressure on myself. If I can't beat Asphodel, then there's something that needs to be worked on other than hoping for a better run route, you know? There's an example of what we were talking about earlier for, like, getting rid of their 2 hearts. That attack does, like, 500 damage, the trap or something like that, and all it did was get rid of one of
I got a blue heart, guy.
Exactly. All it did was get rid of a blue heart.
I love the portamento on these synth notes. Sounds so pretty.
So here's a good example. When you see that stack of skulls there, I'm not using the MAME too much in this run, but here, that actually I was trying to, I just missed that first one when he spawns in, right there. But if an enemy has enough health that you can't just get rid of them real quick with regular attacks or uppercuts, like the Gorgons I could, the Skeletons I've been able to, then the best damage output is to do the MAME and then combo them as best you can. And then also let the MAME do its 400. It's just that hasn't really been a factor so far. But that's the general gameplay if you have your attack and special.
What else?
Are you coughing there?
No?
No, not. I just mean, hey, Zagreus.
I don't know.
I'm hearing, like,
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know what it was that you heard. I wasn't paying enough attention to it.
It's like when you run through that
Oh,
smoke that's over there.
yeah, Whitefire confirmed in chat. That's something I've never even paid attention to. Again, another little thing, you know? Shout out to Supergiant. They're pretty good at what they do.
Yeah, that's pretty cool actually.
I never even realized for the longest time that that's supposed to be like a hindrance in this level. Like taking away your visibility. It doesn't, I don't have a problem seeing through it.
Yeah, it's like the storm from NASCAR Rumble. Shout out to anybody that has ever played NASCAR Rumble.
NASCAR Rumble's amazing. Here,
I wholeheartely agree.
here I take the Eye of, I've never read that out loud. I didn't even know what the name of it was.
Lamia.
Yeah.
I have no
Whitefire
idea.
putting more knowledge in the chat. But yeah, I've never taken, or I am going to take that before. I've never said it out loud. Those two things aren't relevant. But I take that here because naturally, first of all, you get a lot of money in a boonless run. So once you get a certain length into the run, money's not really a problem. So you'll take anything that'll help you out. But also anything that's a health saving thing I'm going to take. Even if it's just a 15% chance, that sounds like great to me, you know? I actually have 2 of the speed increases at the same time right now.
Oh wow, you're so fast.
But it doesn't affect dashing or attacking. It's just my walk speed.
It's almost like your dash is slower than your walk speed.
Yeah, it's just those iframes though, you know?
Yeah.
Here's what we were talking about earlier. My choices are 2 different boons or an Erebus room with a boon. So I'm going to take the Erebus room and purposely lose. When you lose in the Erebus room, you get an onion, which heals you like 1 HP or something.
Now,
Exclusive access.
okay, so when you fail the Erebus room, you still have to fight all the enemies. It's not just like kicks you out as soon as you get hit.
Correct. Yeah, you still and that is nothing to consider. Like going here, I am choosing to take a tougher fight where I could have went to a regular boon and just sacrificed my attack or special, since I've kind of acknowledged that I'm comfortable with having just one or the other. But I chose to go here and be able to keep both of them for the Larny fight. And so as you'll see immediately, there's enemies from Elysium in the Asphodel Erebus room.
Oh, interesting.
Here, my immediate thought was, what can I get hit by that'll do the least damage? I think I go for the wizard, trying to get hit by like 1 single projectile, assuming it'll do like 5 or so. And I think that's the right decision.
Scratch me.
I don't know the exact measurements, but... So I don't want to get hit by the big ball. I want to get hit by one of the little stray ones. Yeah, exactly. One of the little stray ones it splits into.
Already.
Also, I believe that witch did have the homing thing with it. Something I've talked about in a different stream. If there's an armored enemy in a room, like an armored witch, all witches in said room will be armored. So if another one were to have spawned in after I defeated him.
Oh, interesting.
This is also an interesting example. I said, look, there's Elysium enemies. That enemy, the swordsman up there, is also not an Elysium. Well, yeah, no, is not an Elysium enemy. That's a Hades summon version of the sword. Because he's doing 4 projectiles. The standard Elysium ones do 1 if they're not armored and 2 if they are armored. He's doing 4.
That's really weird.
So that just shows you that Erebus is meant to be a challenge. They give you things from further in the game.
Now, is Erebus a character?
Erebus is a place. That's where I'm at. I went down into Erebus. It's also, fun fact, the same place that you fight Charon.
Oh, that makes sense.
He just dashed like 36 times.
Yeah, dude, that was cray. He was like, let me just be Goku right quick.
He didn't have time for my shenanigans. Although, I do think, other than the hit that I took on purpose, I think I did defeat this room without getting hit. So, shout outs to me.
Humor shining through again.
You guys like to talk about
Have
how
you
much I do get hit, you know?
Have you ever played with that instrument that just made the noise when you got the onion?
No.
It's a fun instrument. It's got a little, it's like a metal plate almost with a little knocker on it. You hit it, you swing it around.
These friends are, it's not that I don't think what you were saying is interesting, because I do. It's just that I have nothing to contribute. These friends are interesting because, like, they can be, especially, again, if you're just doing a standard run, they can be some of the easiest enemies in the game. But then situationally, they can be very difficult. Also, there's a lot of fire in this room.
Bunch of them. Are they just hydras? Do they call them, like, hydralits?
Wi-Fi put the name in chat a few minutes ago.
Oh, did he?
Dracons? Dracons? I don't know how to say it. Raycons? Not sponsored.
Oh. I thought that was in response to when you said Gorgon, like the Gorgons are a special kind of Gorgon.
Oh, no. That's what these guys are. So that's the thing, is like you said earlier, I've played so much of this game, you think I would know the name of the enemies. I'm at the point where, like, if you say it, I'll know if it's correct or not. But I don't know them. I don't even look.
So many needles.
I don't even talk about this fight out loud enough to know. Like, I don't even know what I refer to them as. I don't refer to them as anything. I just defeat them. I refer to them as cannon fodder. You know.
Dang.
Says the guy with 42 health right now. Another benefits package example, what they have is that little circle you see around them when they pop up. That slows you down when you're in it, so it makes it harder to get away from them.
Erebus is similar to Chaos in that it's both a place and a personification of an idea. What personification of what idea is it personifying? What does Erebus mean?
This is actually, and this is similar just to Doom in general, and it doesn't take effect in this specific fight, but this is an interesting use for Gilgamesh is like when that guy's there, obviously when he flies off screen, I can't hit him, but if I hit him with the maim here and he flew off screen, if he had enough health, he just dies right here. But if he had enough health, he will take the maim damage off screen and die.
Thank you, White, for that answer.
Something you'll see me do with the keys that I picked up, with the rolls that I get there, is I'll try to hang on to as many of them as possible when I get to Styx so that I don't get screwed over by the Styx rooms and have to take boons for the final fight.
Right.
As opposed to just using them the first opportunity I get to make something better. So here, I checked the stats here to look in the top right where it says the chamber, because I wanted to see if this was the final one, which it is, which means that Centaur Heart's going to be free. Well, I mean, it would be free anyway, but there's not a fight, right? It's not a mid shop. It's a mid shop.
You are straight up like the key master. I just noticed you have like 321 keys.
Yeah.
That must get heavy.
I got them all in this room too. I'm a janitor. I got a lot of keys.
Take forever to open one door because you're just sifting through all of them.
So this is the learning fight. And I don't know how you, familiar you are with this one, but this is the difference here is that his room is different.
Yeah.
And that his head can go anywhere. He's not chained to the middle of the arena.
Oh, interesting.
I think he may have like limits. He can't go to the very outer perimeter, but yeah, he can go pretty far in any direction. So this is what I talked about earlier about how I specifically wanted to go to the Erebus room so that I still have my special and attack. He's a good example of an enemy with a lot of health where you'll see me use the maim and then there we go. Use the maim and he gets that on him, and then I'm doing 135 per swing with these attacks, and it just does chunky damage, right?
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to, it's just a difference in opinions, but like I think Gilgamesh is really good in my opinion. I think it does a lot of damage. I'm kind of just depleting these enemies. Again, I'm speaking specifically boonless in this regard.
Oh, interesting. He's only mobile in the last phase of the fight. Thanks, White, for your insight.
And again, for anybody who doesn't know, the different learning heads can only do specific different attacks. They are different. The blue ones that I had there, they do the same head. They do the same attack that the main learning head does, where he slams the ground. The other ones don't do that. And they're my favorite ones to draw because if you're on the other side of the arena from them, they're not a threat. They can't do anything. They don't have a projectile. Versus like those green ones there, for instance, they'll spawn more enemies, which he's doing right now. Like they're shooting out the little things. So that's why I'll target the green ones as opposed to the blue ones. Like I'll prioritize them. If the blue ones are there, I'm going to take the hit, you know? As in, I'm going to attempt to hit them.
Yeah.
But prioritize the green ones. I'm avoiding the green one right now because Lerny's hanging out by him. This is another reason that Breaching Cross is a good pick to take because it does count for the Lerny heads and for the armored Hades enemies, the damage on the armor. Another difference is when Lerny summons little enemies. If you had the green horned Lerny head, he summons armored ones, but the mini heads, they don't. They summon unarmored ones. So I'm not as worried about them. Like obviously you still don't want a million enemies on screen, but I'm not like rushing to take them out if it can be helped.
Yeah.
So there's an example of what I was talking about. Look how far Lerny goes.
He's not even very big. It like makes it seem like he's like this giant serpent underneath the lava, and then he moves and it's just the serpent that's above the lava. Weird.
So this is a fun thing about maim and about my summon. If you do maim with Gilgamesh, your summons also do the bonus percentage damage. So Achilles normally does 1,500 per hit, and here he does 1,875.
Oh my goodness.
So that's a strategic thing. I think every time I use them, I try to do that. I try to maim whatever enemy I'm hitting with them before I use them. It's weird because I feel like for this run, I've been relatively low health, which makes sense with the melee build, right? Or melee weapon, I should say. But I also feel like I've been relatively comfortable, right? It hasn't seemed like there's been any one thing that's given me a lot of trouble or like come close to killing me.
Yeah. It just seems like you stepped in the fire a lot. Or the lava, not fire.
I don't want to say the stepping in the lava was a conscious decision, but it was something that I wasn't afraid of doing because it does like 1 damage initially.
Right.
I will say with Lerny, and anybody who's watching these videos or these live streams might notice, I feel like I take the most damage from the main head's attacks thinking that I'm just a little out of the range of it, right? Because it does that area of effect wave similar to Asterius. I feel like that's what I get hit the most by.
A chlam.
Do love a good chalam.
How did you hook a clam?
Don't worry about it. Who says I'm even using a hook? You don't know how godly fishing.
I guess that's right. I mean, it didn't even look like water. Just caught a clam in some smoke.
Smoky clams, we love them.
Man, if I weren't allergic to shellfish, smoked clam sounds like it would be delicious.
I think these enemies may be my single favorite one to get in this area, in Elysium. So, like, their attacks can be threatening, but they are kind of slow, right? Their attack, that is, and they just have no health. So there's an example of what I keep referencing with the hit stun uppercut. He just can't get out of that if I keep doing that. That, however, is a bad enemy to draw.
Man, I hate those shielded guys.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we all should.
They're the worst.
Whitefire in chat says that's why you don't take heightened security. But I will say, honestly, for me, and I've talked about this before, if it wasn't for the vases, in Hades fight being traps, I almost always would take heightened security. My first ever heat clears back when I was a beginner player at this were with heightened security. Because things just aren't, traps just aren't threatening to me. They're pretty easy to avoid. And even the lava, it makes it do 5 times as much damage, but that's 5 instead of 1. Like, who stands in the lava for an extended period of time, right? I'd be taking 5 at a time, which is worse than taking 1 at a time, but I still just don't think it's that big of a deal. This hammer, for anybody who doesn't know, you get 2 hammers in a run. One in the first 2 worlds, which would be Tartarus. I almost called the first world Theseus. In Tartarus or Asphodel, you can get the first one in one of those two, and the second one
you're inside of Theseus.
Yeah, well,
ew.
The second one in Elysium, if you pass up on them, you can get them again. Like, they can appear later in Elysium, but they're not guaranteed to. They're guaranteed to appear once, and if you pass up on them, they could appear again or they could not. So whenever there's a hammer, I'm always certainly immediately going to go for it. And so that's why this is the first room I think I did in Elysium. And
there's a brief time where you could get 3 hammers.
Yeah, yeah. Whitefire in the chat, for anybody who doesn't know, was part of the playtesters, the early development team. So that was a lot of fun facts. This was an easy decision for me because it's something that can restore health. But yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, I like Draining Cutter a lot. I think, again, don't know how it would affect somebody who's going for the meta of like speedrunning. I would assume it could still be beneficial, right? Well, I don't know, because if you're using like Poseidon Dash instead of killing them. Anyway, point is, I like it a lot. All it means is that my last hit has to be a special and I recover 2% of my health.
Time to fix up these fists.
So that was an easy decision for me. And then at that point, not that I wouldn't want to increase my health anyway, but the higher you can increase your health, the more health you get back for every kill. See, I'm getting 4 health for every kill in a run where generally there's not a lot of ways for me to get health back. And in this area,
that's really useful.
Yeah, in this area where these enemies I just established earlier, well, I don't know about established, but I said I don't really fear earlier, where they're not really a threat, this room just outright increased my health to full, functionally, right? I don't know what happens the rest of this room, but like, you know, the way the room's going right now. And that includes like the little rats and sticks. It would be 4 health for every single one.
Oh, damn.
And again, different people, different playstyles. And I mention this a lot on these kind of streams, but I wasn't interactive with a community when I played this game and learned how to play this game. So I kind of just have my own mindset and opinions on things. Not to say that other people, oh, you're sheeps, you don't have your own opinion. But just that, like, you know, exactly what I said. I'm only familiar with what my instincts have told me. And I just don't see how Draining Cutter would not be amazing. Like I said, it just outright filled my health back to full in this room. I will say it's not going to be effective in the Theseus Asterius fight. You know? That's something to consider. And again, it may be lesser than other things if you were speedrunning, but I like it. For somebody who focuses on mitigation and survival, I feel like it fits my playstyle.
Yeah.
So here's my immediate thought there. I got the health, which is nice, and I'm like, boom, cool. There's a, definitely remember her name, an Artemis room. All right, let's go see what the other rooms are. And if this one wasn't a shop, if it was Hermes and another god, I would go to Artemis again. But thankfully, we got a shop.
And now you don't need any health, so do you just buy nothing? Yep. Oh, no,
Max
you got
health.
a chart. Duh.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty good 3 things in a sequence. It was pretty good that they gave me a shop to counteract getting a... So the thing I said earlier about changing things and other things also works on what you're going to be offered, right? So I'm not going to be offered a key and a boon, I believe. I'm not entirely certain about this. It just makes sense in my head, I guess. Maybe I'm just saying nonsense. But I feel like you don't get offered a key or a boon because they're not equivalent, right? So the last one I got offered a shop or a boon, which are equivalent, and that worked out well. I'll take the shop. In the shop, I got a centaur heart, which is great. And then in this room, I got offered 2 different things, and one of them wasn't a boon. So again, I just got dealt a good hand there. Don't you love how Charon's standing there with his hand out, waiting for you to...
Just like, let me think about this door for a second.
Another thing, you know, like, again, we talk about, like, my slower play style or, like, my attempts to mitigate or be safe throughout a run. Draining Cutter gives me, to a degree, an ability to not have to worry about that. If there's an enemy I don't like and I want to get rid of him quick, I can sacrifice damage for that and not have to worry as much.
I don't know if there's much in this game that makes me more anxious than seeing a purple reticle on me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that Theseus or is that the archers that we're seeing?
Any of them.
Any
of
of them?
them. I don't like having a target on my back.
So we got all archers there. That was pretty fine, right? Especially because they weren't armored, so that you could take them out quick enough.
Man, the sound design in this game is so good. I love when you pause the game and just a low pass filter hits the music and it just gets all chill. It's great. Oh, actually, did it just cut out the high part too? Interesting.
So I've talked about this before, but the waves of enemies can come in either 2 or 3 waves. It can go from 1 to... Yeah, shout out to Aaron Korb, who's behind all the music and the audio design here. The waves of enemies in this game can go from either... It can be 2 waves or 3 waves. And if it's 2, that means the second wave is going to be harder than the first. So you'll fight your first wave that you walk in, and then if it gets harder, you know there's only 2 waves of enemies. But if it doesn't, if it gets easier, like if you come in and it's like 4 archers... I keep on calling them bowsmen.
4 bows.
But if you come in and there's 4 archers...
Hit you with them bows. Like
ludicrous?
John Jones.
If you come in and there's 4 archers and then you defeat them and there's 2 archers that now pop up, you know that that's just a middle wave and there's going to be 3 waves. So that is to say that this is the hard wave of this wave, which is because I got the armored greatswords there. I think they're called greatswords. And I only would know that because friend of the channel Whitefire. But if what I said is not correct and they're not called greatswords, then it's definitely not Whitefire's fault. As you can see at this point, I'm close to 250 health, so every uppercut that I kill with is giving me 5 health apiece, which again, that just seems so good to me, especially with the Elysium enemies, because when they die, both of those count. Their little spirit and the actual enemy both count, so I'm getting 10 health per little guy that I'm defeating. Right. Just surveying the room. Make sure I don't miss this shop. Did I not take anything there? Yeah, I guess that's another point. At this point, I don't need to worry about the health again as much. So I think I just passed up on that and saved the money. flame wheels. Nobody likes flame wheels, right? We all agree.
Unless it's like a flaming wheel of cheese, makes it all melty and delicious. I would like that. I think.
Well,
I mean, I wouldn't like being lit on fire by cheese, but if you could avoid that, probably pretty good. Dip some crackers in it.
so for anybody who doesn't know, these little guys here, the little flame wheels, they're the mini chariots. You can avoid them the same way that you the same way that you avoid Asterius, and you can get them to run into walls where Asterius would normally stop sprinting at you and like run into the wall. They will explode and die, which is one way to get rid of them. As you can see, I'm taking advantage of that now. In the beginning, I was trying to uppercut them, which didn't really make sense because I was at full health anyway, but I think I just didn't want to have to do the whole run around. I didn't want them to give me the run around or me to give them the run around, so. And they're not even worth the uppercut for like the healing because you take 10 when they die, so still in that loss. This will be an example of the hit stun loop and the me backing up to safety.
He's just like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, they just can't get out of that, and he did a little bit there. He scooted a little bit between my two attacks, and that's why the fadeaway is important. So even if the hit stun isn't like airtight lock, the fadeaway makes it to where it functionally is.
Yeah.
Thank the gods.
It's so vicious how hard he uppercuts that just to get a little gold vase.
Come all this way, huh?
I wonder what I take at this point. It's got to be the attack boost, right? No, apparently it doesn't. It does not have to be the attack boost, right? I guess that honestly, in hindsight, though, that makes sense, right? Because I can get health from rooms, but it was going back to what I said with the Theseus Asterius fight. So I can go into rooms without full health feeling good, that I won't necessarily die because I can recover health, but I just want to make sure that I go into the Theseus Asterius fight with full health.
Right.
And
Yeah,
especially since I'm using the uppercut more at this point because it heals me. I'm not even using the attack as much.
Which I feel like you could, though, because you only have to kill him with the uppercut.
I could, but the uppercut does 120 and the attack swipe does 120. So you're not really losing a lot by...
I mean, I feel like you're losing DPS regardless because the special is so much slower.
It is slower. I don't know that it's... I don't know. Maybe it's just my mind, but I don't feel like it's so much slower. I feel like it's like barely slower.
It's definitely safer because you're moving way after everyone. Well, with the dash attack.
And for the record, I don't know if I clarified this earlier, but the main... Well, I guess I did, because I said the main affects all damage, including like Achilles when he comes in. But so yeah, it does affect the uppercut as well. So the uppercut will also do 135 instead of 120. So it's not like, oh, you should specifically use the attack instead of the uppercut. No, you don't have to vary it if you don't want to. That was a bit unfortunate. I just didn't quite realize that that one wasn't turned around. I thought they were all facing the same direction.
They just melted like over 60 damage. Oh, way more than that now. 76 damage?
And I think, is this still the... Yeah, as you can see, they do 9, 11, 11. So
Ooh.
with their 3 hits, that's what, 31 damage?
These 4 guys just took over 100 damage.
I haven't killed any of them yet. It's just been these 4
No.
the whole time. I thought I did. Regardless, I think, are we still on the same wave? Oh, you can tell I killed at least one because you can see their shields on the ground.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's two dead shields and 2 enemies, so 5 guys. 2 dead shields. Shields have lives too. I wonder how much I recover by the end of this room. I mean, I'm gonna get 20 from these 2 guys. It's just how much damage I'll take in the meantime. And so for anybody who doesn't know, the great shields? Yeah, the great shields.
What White Fire said.
They can be hit stun looped from behind. It's just the fact that when there's multiple of them,
Yeah.
it becomes problematic. So yeah, that was the first wave of enemies. So it only gets worse from here. Except it kind of doesn't, because they actually gave me chariots as opposed to like giving me 7 shield guys or something, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting about prioritizing certain enemies in this game is like they gave me more Well, I don't know if they did give me more unwarned enemies. There's 3 chariots and 2 guys. I don't know. I was just going to say that, like, functionally, I view this as just outright easier, even though it's, like, the second wave, you know? Although this might be a 3-wave room, so who knows? I don't know if the game considers this hand they've dealt me easier or not. And we talked about this earlier, how one of the main benefits of the Gilgamesh is the dashes. Look how much of an effect it takes, like, with dealing with these chariots.
Mm-hmm.
The 1 dash against these armored chariots would be so much more unfortunate. I did take 19 damage from that one, though. And, you know, it's funny that I've had multiple guests on that have been like, wow, you take more hits than I expected, or you've gotten hit a lot, or so on and so forth. And that's funny. I get it. But, like, I also think that does make a good point, as to say that, like, not to be like, oh, this is easy, but, like, yeah, this is doable, right?
Yeah, I think the main game is just making sure you're strategizing well and making the correct decisions. And that's more important than actually playing well.
Because, like...
Not that you're not playing well, but...
and for the record, just for anybody who's curious, if Maim kills the enemy, that does also give me the health back. That counts as the special killing them for Draining Cutter. But yeah, like, Bien, you know this. I've talked about this before with... I had Bien help me beat a Guilty Gear Strive... I don't even know what to call it. Little practice thing. Because I didn't have the reaction time for it. Which is to say that I don't think I have the greatest reflexes or reaction time or... I don't know, coordination, hand-eye, whatever. And that's not the end-all be-all if you want to do specifically this challenge right here, because it definitely helps with other things.
Was it a soul challenge, but you were like fighting Axel, right?
I think
and
you could have...
He has the 2 different moves.
Yeah, you could have picked any character, but I do think you're reversing Axel, and he does either a grab or an attack.
Yeah. Okay,
so I didn't end up with a lot of health by the end of this, but I do get to buy health there, so that worked out.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, I would be fine on health anyway because I have the health from, what's his name, Patroclus? So it did get me all the way to full.
I like to think his name is Patroclus, but I don't actually know.
Yeah? I think...
Just because that sounds more Greek to me.
I think right there in this moment, I started uppercutting in this room, and then I was like, hey, I'm at full health. I can use my not uppercut. Like, I can use my regular attack.
Like, now I can punch you guys in the face.
And the benefit to that, and this is another difference between this and the other fists, is that it swipes so wide. You can see I hit all 3 of them right here.
Yeah.
And that's very useful for, like, dealing with crowds of enemies. I don't know how much I did this earlier in the run when we were just talking over Tartarus and Asphodel, but yeah, when you get crowds of, like, easily defeatable enemies, the Gilgamesh wide swipe it's pretty useful for getting the job done, right? Because, like, those little guys there were functionally no different than just, like, a crowd of skulls. And again, I feel like that enemy specifically is supposed to be a really tanky enemy, and like BOONLESS, I feel like I got rid of him pretty quick. I don't know. I like Gilgamesh. And that was getting rid of him with calisthenics program and damage control.
Now, when you kill like one of the soldiers, both their soldier form and their like eyeball form both give you health back, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I couldn't really think of the best way to phrase it, so I didn't know if it was coming through clear. But yes, I get 10 health from killing the soldiers, 5 for their humanoid body and 5 for the little eyeball. Hmm, 19 damage from the chariots.
I mean, I know it makes sense because of like how high heat you're on, but like it just feels like everybody that hits you does so much damage.
I would say that a lot of it, like specifically with the shieldsmen earlier, or with I don't know if this happened in this run, but like when you get hit by witches projectiles, if they send out more than one, a lot of it is just getting stuck in combo attacks, you know?
Yeah.
Like the shieldsmen, they do a dash and then a spin that hits twice, and I just get hit by all 3, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and what Wi-Fi said in chat is correct as well. I'm not using hard labor, so the enemies aren't doing extra damage. Unless they have like benefits package that makes them do extra damage. By default, the enemies
Oh.
aren't doing extra damage.
Interesting.
And this is what I referenced. This is how we do, you know? Now it's actually
This is how we do it.
now it's actually a challenge of can I kill these guys fast enough without one of them respawning, which is no. I'm going to let 2 of them respawn.
Oh damn.
I wanted to try and go back and forth hoping because when you deplete their armor, they take like a hit stun effect. But I just didn't execute that, which is fine because now I get more health for killing them again.
That's true.
So long as I don't get hit, which also doesn't matter because my room entering thing from Patroclus would fully heal me anyway. Yeah, that was a fun room. I feel like the game.
Oh, and you got max life from the darkness too?
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like the game did feed my max life a lot in Elysium, right? I feel like I've gotten a lot of Centaur stuff and darkness. For clarification, just for anybody, I don't get max health increase from darkness in a shop. It's only if it's a room reward.
Oh, interesting.
So that's why I don't even think about that. Because technically darkness is the boss room reward, as you can see above the thing there. I don't know what I was checking there.
Maybe making sure you didn't fuck up anywhere.
I could have been checking what my speed increase thing was, like what my Charon shop thing was. It's like, oh yeah, it was 20% movement speed. Okay.
Gotcha.
A challenger?
So
So the extreme measures for this fight changes them kind of drastically. They get gold-plated armor, and you know they're pretty swaggy, and that intimidates Zagreus. So it makes Zagreus. I'm joking. It doesn't make Zagreus worse. But no, it changes Theseus drastically. It changes Asterius not so much drastically, but he gets like area of effect and projectiles and stuff that I don't know if he does as much in his original form. I bring this up all the time, just waiting for everybody to just give me all the what's feedback that's not positive? Criticism? I don't know. The differing opinions.
Yeah.
But I think that this version of this fight, I don't know if I'm passionate about this. I think it may be easier, right? In the past, I think I've just outright said that I think it's easier. But I don't think... I don't know, you'll see. Theseus is just not a threat in that. His attacks are all slow, all predictable, and he doesn't really target you. He just does his own thing.
Are those like circular balcony things where the shades are? Are those new too?
See, you and Zach have both said that, but I'm pretty sure, and maybe Chad can confirm, that they've been in there since the release of the game.
Oh.
I know...
I mean, it's different from playing it to watching somebody else play it, but
yeah.
They seem new to me.
This is something I tried to talk about before that I don't know if I explained really well. Before I was on a different run. So, obviously having the gloves and their extra dashes help a lot, but this attack by Asterius is one of the most intimidating when doing this, not with the Gilgamesh gloves. And it's just his dash attack when he dashes at you. If I were standing where I am on the screen right now while it's paused, and I dash through, I'm not saying he would because, specifically where he's at, distance, blah, 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 but he may just run around it and still try to attack me. And if you only have the one dash because you're not using your mirror upgrades, you can't really account for that very well, right? You can't then dash through it again in time. So what you want to do is what I do, which is get very far down and kind of like, again, kite him. Again, same thing with Hades. Hades will cut you off if you take a tight circle around his pillars. So you want to go like a wide circle so that he knows to chase you all the way around. I say it like you're like training a dog, right? Same thing with Asterius. I go down far here and then dash up back through it. And these are just tips for anybody who's new or anybody who struggles with the fighter or anything. I go down far, and the Gilgamesh helps with the extra dashes, but even if I didn't have it, you go down far and then walk up and dash through it. See, I go all the way down there and then go through to make sure that he goes in a direct line into the thing. Also, I use the blue ones almost every time because they're significantly more reliable than the red ones. The red ones, I think, damage him if he breaks them, which is nice. But the blue ones are indestructible and are a wider hitbox, hurt box, safety box, box.
Speaking of which, thank you, White, for confirming that I'm just an unobservant idiot.
Yeah, I mean, it goes into what you were saying though. A lot of people don't notice. I don't know how many times I did this fight before noticing that they were even people there, right? It's a weird place to be in this fight. I guess that's the best seats you can get,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know if it's happening on Twitch as well, but for me, your audio is cutting out a little bit. Like every once in a while, it seems like I lose a word, but I don't know if it's affecting Twitch or not.
Oh goodness.
Might just be a Discord thing.
Okay.
probably is just a Discord thing.
I was gonna say I don't think I've been hit by Theseus yet, but I haven't been hit by anybody yet because I'm still at full health. But yeah, I mean Theseus. He's pretty avoidable in this fight. He kind of is almost like a stage hazard in this version, and that's good. I get hit by this attack, not right there, but that attack he was doing with like the machine gun fire. If I get hit by any attack of his, it's usually that one. But that does the least damage of anything that you can possibly be hit by in this fight. That's actually not true. It does 10 damage. You can take less damage from one of Asterius' projectiles if you get hit by it far away, because they do less damage the more time that they travel. But yeah, it does 10 damage, which is not very much, is the point. You'll also see earlier I did a maim attack on Theseus to get rid of his damage control. And I only did that when I couldn't be fighting Asterius. So like Asterius was doing a spin attack or something and I had no way to damage him. Yeah. Although I guess I could use my cast because I never lost my cast in Elysium. That would be my only projectile. But yeah, I don't really target Theseus much if it can be helped. Even right there, you'll see like I got hit, but it just didn't do a lot of damage. That did. So this is the same thing I was talking about earlier. So I've talked about this before. I think Whitefire and I, when he was on stream with me, kind of talked about this, was the strategy for using Achilles in this fight. A lot of people, including myself, when I just do regular runs, will just start this fight while they're standing together and just like hit them with Meg or something, right? They're standing still. They let you hit them. It does good damage. You don't have to worry about aiming it. When I do this fight, I wait until Asterius is in his second form because it's significantly more threatening. And in this case, I specifically maim him and also make sure he's not dashing. But as soon as he goes into second form, he doesn't usually immediately dash. So yeah, that's what I do. I get 1875 on him. Unfortunately, Theseus also gets hit. I wish that both hits would hit Asterius. But if there's two separate enemies, then Achilles will target both enemies. He will specifically not hit the same enemy twice unless it's the only enemy on screen that he can hit. Which is useful in the Hades fight, where Hades can be the only enemy on screen that he can hit. And this is another reason, see, I'm just going to keep singing Gilgamesh's praises, because I've had people that I've had conversations with that don't like Gilgamesh. This is another good use for Gilgamesh, again, and it does have to do with playstyle, but specifically for my playstyle, when I'm fighting the regular enemies, I can maim them and then just like swing with the attack like crazy and just do crazy damage output, right?
Yeah.
And then when I'm fighting these guys, I can just maim them and run away and let the maim do its thing. And that's just a consistent 480 damage. 80 on the attack that inflicts the maim and 400 from the maim itself. So if you want to use a hit and run style where like functionally, it's not literally a projectile, but you're a projectile by dashing in with the extra Gilgamesh dashes, getting the maim and then dashing away, then you have that option, which you don't really have with other, melee weapons.
Man. Asterius must have like a crazy good inner ear or something because he did not get dizzy at all.
I do think it's interesting that we were talking about earlier how I was like taking a lot of damage, taking a lot of hits. I feel like in this fight, which is one of the more challenging fights in a boonless, mirrorless run, I've kind of handled,
destroyed it.
Yeah, not literally effortlessly, but yeah, for the most part.
Do they normally do that cool little blue animation?
Yes.
When they die?
Yes.
Man, I missed so much in this fight by fighting.
And this is an example. I'm not even going to rewind because you're just going to see it the whole time. This is an example of Theseus is just not a threat. He doesn't attack you.
Yeah, no.
He just runs around. And so I just get to keep getting free hits on him. And it's not to say that regular Theseus is particularly hard because I'm going to verse regular Theseus in a moment. You knock him out of the chariot.
Oh, interesting.
But like, he's more hard to deal with than this.
Yeah, he's not even, I mean, regular Theseus like targets you. He's not even targeting you. He's like just shooting randomly around.
And again, I'm going to handle regular Theseus just fine during this fight upcoming. Well, I actually don't know. Maybe I get tore up. I'm going to beat him upcoming. But even this thing that he's doing right now is less threatening while dealing with Asterius. Because that's the only attack that's kind of like quick to come out. Everything else is very telegraphed.
Yeah.
Getting hit by him physically does a lot of damage, but again, that's not that hard to avoid.
You're not going to get hit, yeah.
I may have in this fight, but like I definitely probably did in one of these videos. This is another point. Normally Theseus enters his second phase in the non-EM version at half health, and then you have to deal with him and a god from half health. He does it at 1/3 health here. I don't know if he gets a health increase from being an EM, from being in extreme measures. So maybe it just balances out that like functionally it's the same amount, but it's just nice that it's only at 1/3.
Now, are you like, because when he's like circling the stage and like dropping bombs, you could just be behind him at all times and you would never take damage because they explode like way further behind him. Is there a reason other than not realizing it that you were like trying to avoid where the bombs explode?
Playing cautiously. Those bombs do like 50 per pop. 50
Oh,
damage, so it just wasn't worth the risk. Same reason.
Gotcha.
So this is another thing. When you fight him when he's in this mode, and especially if you're doing like a fresh file or just like a not extreme measures version, because now he has a god with him. Basically, if you were fighting this version of Theseus without the gods actively attacking, there's a lot of different strategies where people like get close to him, let him do his like Hades spin and like dash through him and then attack from behind. You could just walk perpendicular and just avoid his projectile. I almost always just use the blue barricade, or not barricade, whatever you want to call it, the blue thing, and safely let him hit it with his spear and then go hit him. And that's just, to me, from my skill set and play style and mentality, that's just playing optimally. Like, yeah, the other ways can work, but like, he just cannot hit me through that blue thing. So why risk, right? It doesn't rely on my performance of dashing through him expertly. He just cannot hit me.
yeah. It just goes back to like just so many different conversations that you and I have had about how you just play games. It's like you're just a very safe person when you play stuff.
And I don't know how much we talked about this on the stream, like being just referenced. We definitely had conversations, him and I. But the thing is, in my mind, it's not even necessarily safe. In my mind, it's just optimal. For anybody who's not familiar, Zagreus has a little fan over here. It's always nice to go say hello.
Yeah. I guess it depends on what your definition of optimal is, because I guess your definition of optimal is just what you're least likely to take damage doing, but somebody else's is like speed, you know?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
damage output.
So I'm functioning that the goal here is to just win, to beat it, you know?
Yeah, hard decision.
I don't know. What was my decision? I wasn't...
You got two things. You got the damage to armor and...
Yeah, I don't know why I was pausing, because like, maybe I was just coming to the realization that I should definitely take both, right? Because there's only one thing that he could potentially offer that would be useful, which is a Centaur Heart. And I'm going to make money even if I couldn't. Like, even if I spent enough money to have less than the Centaur Heart, I would make money in the upcoming Styx, so...
Yeah.
I still have enough anyway after buying. I don't know why I paused. Maybe I was just taking a breather. Maybe I was being silly.
You're probably just taking a drink or something.
You know? Look, I was taking a drink while we were watching me pause there, so. Yeah, I think, and again, if anybody else knows, they can always correct me in the comments or in the live Twitch chat, but I think he can only ever offer one Centaur Heart, or at least he's very likely to only ever offer one Centaur Heart in Styx.
Let's count how long it takes White to tell you the answer.
I win this round, fish.
I think I caught a fish every time I tried in this area. Not this area, in this run. But I also think I didn't get a single perfect catch, so... Yeah, mediocre run, I'd say. Okay. I didn't know how long I was...
White doesn't even know.
Didn't know how long I was going to relish my fishing ability there. So this is what I was talking about earlier. I saved up... You can see in the bottom right corner above my money, I saved up 3 rerolls. Obviously, I'm not going to reroll the Centaur Heart or the money. I'm going to reroll the boons. The boons can turn into a different god's boon, or they can turn into coins or hearts. So the only 2 good things that they could turn into are money or hearts. If I reroll the same one, like if I roll that Aphrodite one there and it turns into Zeus, and then I roll it again, it can turn back into Aphrodite. So you can't eliminate options the more you roll the same one. And I think I roll them before entering a room, with the thought process being, I want to know, you know, like if I roll Aphrodite and it's going to be a heart, it would be nice to know instead of going to the money and the heart, you know? Yeah. I would go to the heart and the heart. Also, I probably just pause here. I think I'm just enjoying watching the little flies there on the screen. Okay, so I don't roll them ahead of time. You know, go against what I say. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Look, you know. But that would be the strategy for anybody who's doing it. So I think Whitefire and I, again, in the previous video, were talking about how, like, you don't necessarily love the rats. And there's only one of them here, so he's not laying down a ton of acid. But, like, for me, the rat is just not a threat. He just can't handle the speed and the, what you call it? The maim. Like, I can just maim and back up, and he can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, he just gets hit stun loop. So he can have all the health in the world and drop all the acid he wants, but if he's not dropping the acid from the specific area that I'm hitting him, that's fine. And again, mind you, that is just one of them. But that's just kind of like the way that I deal with the rats in general. What's good here is assuming I don't get, and this is an example of me not speedrunning. People will be like, what was your time at the end of the run? Well, you're just watching it tick up as he does his best Wolverine pose. So, you know.
What's good here is the pillar that Zagreus is looking at, clearly.
Yeah, well.
He's quite enjoying it.
Hey, honestly, I see the top of his head. I think he's just looking at the ground. He's like, are my feet still on fire? All right.
There we go.
But yeah, that's just an example of like, I'm not worried about what my time is. I don't even pause to take breaks. So same thing here. They're all three just hits unlocked. I don't know what to tell you. The fists are good for that. The regular fists are good for that too, mind you. They don't do as much damage because I got the maim and then all the individual hits. I mean, you could argue that like Demeter would do more damage. Maybe. I don't know.
Demeter, I hardly know her.
I don't get it.
That was
And I think, again, just referencing back to the bow run of this, I think Whitefire talked about like thinking that the laser enemies were one of his favorite to get in this area, and they're one of my least favorite, as you can see. I got hit a bunch by them there, right?
Yeah.
Just because they can projectile from across the screen, so I can't hit stun lock them, especially if they're separated. They don't have to come to me.
Oh no. Those poor rats.
This is another example. I have to individually go hit all of them. I can't knock them into one area to group together to hit stun lock, you know? So I have to go back and forth, and then now there's acid in the middle of the room. So these are probably the worst enemy to get, especially with this weapon in particular, you know? They have low health, so if you have a high damage output, they can be easy to deal with, especially like a high damage output projectile. But even me trying to lame my way out and just maim this guy and then back up over here, I took 2 damage.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Dang.
Wow, that did so much I didn't wait for that to finish, and I thought it was getting close to finishing and I would dash over, and it did so much damage. I went from 303 to 261.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, dude. 42 damage?
No thanks.
That ain't cute.
Can we, this is, you know, playing this game, wanting to recover health to my uppercut, probably one of the few times I would ever ask for rats, please. Not those. I was hoping for the little ones. Now that they're armored, they're, you know, anytime I take damage, like that 38 I just took there, that's my fault, right? They should be manageable. It's just very tedious.
Yeah.
But this is where that fadeaway is so important. Zagreus, Nowitzki, you know? I guess the masses would probably be more familiar with, you know, like Zagreus Bryant or Kobe Zagreus. I don't know. I'm going to stick with Nowitzki. Honestly, I think it sounds better.
It does. Also, I will give some acknowledgement to White for his joke off of my terrible joke. That was probably better than my joke.
What Whitefire just said in chat is also absolutely correct. That was the in-game pause of, I'm performing terribly, I need to get my head straight. I got hit twice by them, and they did 38 damage per hit, and I was just like, you're better than this.
Yeah. Give yourself a little pep talk.
I mean, it was like actually like 1 second, so quickest pep talk, but...
Yeah, well, it was in your head, so it's like the hyperbolic time chamber.
Oh, yeah. That checks out.
You just get more time in your head.
I feel like I put a lot of the fight with these guys on myself, where it's like, I keep saying this, but it's like if I got hit, that's just on me, right? Like I could have just performed better and it would have been okay. And I guess that applies to everything, or else I just wouldn't really enjoy the game.
Right.
But just more so with them. They're just very manageable. And then now we're at the end game of a fight with the giant rats, where it's just like, well, this is the part where we take 10 minutes, but we'll eventually whittle you down. So some people might not find this enjoying or thrilling, but this is hit stun lock strategy for me. And it's funny, I like to reference the hit stun lock a lot, But honestly, in my mind, I just think it's cool that I can do that because it reminds me of something of like Streets of Rage, right? It's an entirely different game, but a similar concept.
Yeah.
That guy is one of my least favorite enemies, and he's normally very problematic. Thankfully, he didn't have armor, and there was no other enemy spawned near him, which made him very convenient to fight. Was it just those two enemies in this whole room? Interesting. Oh, that's another. Okay, yeah. Let me guys, let me get my excuses prepared. If you just hear me out on this.
Get your Johns out of the closet right away.
Yeah, I feel like it was like starting like a sponsored bit. Guys, just work with me here. You know, we'll get back to the video in a second. No, but
just segue into my Johns.
I talked about how surprised I was that I was getting hit so much by these rats. They do have the benefits package speed increase, which affects their attacks as well. So their attacks are coming out faster. I don't want to say faster than I'm used to. I mean, it is literally the case, but like more so faster than they would typically be. So that would make sense why I kept getting hit just from the front of them just getting an attack off. And yeah, this room does love it some armored rats, you know?
I keep thinking it's gonna be over, and then like, nah, we got more, dude.
Well, that second area that I just did was just like one satyr guy and a rat. So that was clearly like the mid wave, you know?
Yeah.
I talked about this in a previous run, but any enemy that can fly, i.e. like the witches and these laser guys right here, I was trying to dash there and I got stuck in the corner. Again, my fault. Shouldn't have been in the corner. But I was on timeout. What was I supposed to do? But yeah, anybody who can fly in this game and has like a projectile, they will specifically go out of their way to go in an area that you can't walk. That's why they're like in the middle of the room.
Oh,
the witches do that a lot. If you have a projectile,
Yeah.
it's not as big of a deal, obviously. But yeah, that's a bit annoying. Also in this area,
I mean, I definitely noticed that you'd have flying guys over top of areas you can't get to, and it would piss me off. But I never knew that they like specifically had AI to do that.
yeah. This area is scary to me, not because of the acid on the ground or necessarily because of the enemies, but because of the traps. I say that like I'm good at avoiding them, and I feel like I shouldn't get hit by them, and I stand by that. Like on a normal run, I can use heightened security with confidence, but these Styx traps specifically, not the ones that shoot like the saw blades out, but like the guillotines that come from up top. I'm just so worried about them getting touched because the rats stepping on them matters too. So I don't just focus on me not stepping on them. It's like, is there somebody chasing me who can step on them? And I feel like the traps in this arena are set up specifically for like, if somebody's trailing you and they step on it, like it will then fall, like you'll walk to where it's going to fall. And that happened to me a lot, not necessarily in this run, but just in general. Like I would avoid that rat and then he would step on it and then I'd be right under the trap. So there are safe areas. I mean, obviously anywhere that there's not a marker that they're going to fall. But like the main safe area is where I just am. It's like by the bottom right side gate. I feel like it's hard to give directions in an isometric game.
I feel the complete opposite because every direction is always the same.
As you can see right now, I'm doing the very exciting, very thrilling gameplay of just going in a circle. Like I'm just going to get my hits in. If this is how you guys want to do this fight, and clearly it is. By you guys, I mean these enemies on the screen. This is how we'll do the fight, right?
It's just pro gamer move with kiting.
Yeah. Well, I'm kiting the rats to a degree. Not even all of them, because sometimes they cut me off like they did there.
Yeah.
But it's like Whitefire said, circle strafing the projectile guy is the real thing. Now that he's gone, it can change things. And I'll probably still get hit by stray rat attacks because, I mean, that's what I do, right? 4 speedy armored rats. You love to see it. Unless you're, well, no. Guys, don't worry. I was going for a bad joke. I was going to say unless you're Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, thinking that they had to have an enemy that was a rat. And then I remembered that that was like their sensei.
Yeah.
Because they have like, their enemies are like animals, right?
Yeah, you got Bebop and Rhapsody.
Yeah, and then you got Shredder. He's definitely a human, right?
Yeah.
That's an animal.
It's an animal.
Whitefire, don't sell them short. These are for sure Raticates, right? The little ones would actually be the Rattata, right?
Man, Rattata are cute though. I like how fierce they are, but how pathetic they actually are.
I'm glad everybody gets an opinion in life.
Just one.
Yep. So, I don't know if I talked about this at the beginning of the run. I don't think I did, at least not on stream. But, yeah, this run was probably this run was my longest run in this series in time. And you're kind of sort of seeing why right now.
Yeah, I don't think you have to say kind of, sort of. And just, this is why.
Well, yeah.
I'll say it again. I can't wait for the half-an-hour Hades fight.
The Hades fight may be not quick. I don't know. I was gonna say quicker than this fight, right? Yeah, that's a good point that Whitefire's saying. So, like, there's the benefits package combination that these rats get. Both of them made a significant effect on the fact that it's taking long. So the fact that they're fast means that I couldn't really confidently do damage at the rate that I normally would, because as you see, I kept getting hit and getting annoyed by how much I was getting hit by them. Then there's the fact that they have just straight up extra armor, I believe is the other benefits package that they have. I don't know if it's extra armor or extra life, but it's something that has durability to them. So they have a ton of health. There has been a ton of them. There's been, what was there, like 4 in the first wave, 1 in the second, and now another 4 or 5 here. So I've faced 10 of them with extra health, all armored, all speed increased, you know.
My
bad
goodness,
draw.
that was grueling.
Yeah. But if you like the uppercut animation, boy, do I have a video for you, right? Ryu and Ken are going to love that.
Imagine if Zagreus just yelled Shoryuken every single time.
So this is me.
Wow.
Yeah. This is me doing what I said earlier. I was like, I could take this. I wonder if my thought process, and I don't know about this, but I wonder if my thought process is like, if there's a centaur heart on the screen, they're less likely to give me 2 of them. So get rid of the centaur heart and then exchange the Aphrodite room. I also exchanged the Aphrodite room because I didn't want to do bosses if I could help it. But yeah, I was like, let me re-roll this. What could I get? Oh, Zeus. That's unfortunate. That's all right. We got another one. Oh, Ares. Oh, Zeus? You love to see it.
I can just imagine you playing and just going, dang it, dang it, dang it.
Yeah, no, that's a very good impersonation of me. So this is another situation where, again, just hit stun lockable weapon, and this area is null and void, you know? And a benefit to this one, as opposed to, like, because the bow could do a similar thing, or the spear could do a similar thing with, like, its flurry attack, the sword could do a similar thing with its flurry attack, the bow could do a similar thing with its flurry attack. A lot of weapons have flurry attacks. But especially beneficial for the fists here is the fact that I get health from just hit stun locking enemies. I'm safe, I'm not going to take damage, and I gain 7 health for every enemy I killed. It's interesting to me. Well, I don't know. I was going to say it's interesting to me the Draining Cutter just isn't really looked fondly upon by the community as far as I'm aware.
I mean, I feel like with, like, a ton of games, the, like, health kind of things aren't usually very prioritized. It's always, like, people love damage buffs.
Yeah, I can see that. Although in like a roguelike where you only have 1 health bar, it kind of changes things. But still, I can see what you're saying. Everything except shield has a flurry hammer. Yeah, the rail doesn't have hit stun though, so it wouldn't be able to do a similar thing. But I get what you're saying. But as you can see, I'm going through these easy Styx middle rooms, and I left that last one with like 80 health or like something not very good. And I'm already back to like 200.
Yeah.
It has hit stun with explosive fire. Well, fair enough.
Want to fight?
Even then, I wonder, like, the rail, you would still have to reload, right? Because the explosive fire is on the standard attack, and I think explosive fire limits your amount of ammo. I could be wrong on that. That may be a different one. One of them limits your ammo, I believe.
Unless you have that aspect that's got infinite ammo, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that can double up with explosive fire, because there's certain things that you can't get together. Yeah, that's kind of what Whitefire just touched on in chat there. This is where the acid is annoying. I wasn't confident getting in a comfortable position to hit both of them. I think I have to zip to the other side. Yeah. Yep. And now that there's just the one, I don't have to worry about being out of bad position. I can then do the maim and then get more damage for each individual hit in addition to the 400 at the end. But I can also just miss the maim is another thing that I can do. And then have to reposition. So yeah, I feel like this is kind of like tedious and long and not necessarily the most exciting gameplay, but it's also, if you're just watching, like it's easy, right? Like, check it out. You can do this if you're struggling with the fists. So unfortunately,
This is gonna become one of those how-to videos that you see on Facebook.
yeah, the thing is, like, you know, it varies by console. So the thing is, like, if you're playing on PlayStation, you have to, you press the triangle button, right? But if you're playing on Switch, you press, I don't even know what button's at the top of Switch.
It's an X at the top.
Yeah, you definitely press the X button, right? But no, it's very simple, right? I'm just doing the uppercut and safely getting in a range and hit stun locking him. Unfortunately, so this is why I wasn't gonna say when I was like, this is what makes this longer, and I was like, kind of, and you're like, no, you could just say it. This is another factor, is the fact that this is the second room, and I didn't get the Satyr sack. So we have to do at least 3 routes. That also contributed to this going very long. Because usually on a good run, when you're attempting to do this, you would absolutely want 2 sacks.
So gross.
Like a good defensive lineman, you would want 2 sacks. Because you're not going to get any benefit out of getting boons or anything, right? Because in a regular run, there could be a benefit to going for more stuff. I'm not on tight deadline, so I don't have to rush, but I'm not going to get a benefit from getting anything. So I would just want it to be over as soon as it could be.
I learned today that defensive linemen have 4 testicles.
Yeah. As you can see here, another example of that guy immediately goes to the area that I can't walk on. Did both of the regular end rooms that I got in this run just rats and laser guys?
Yeah, I think
You love
so,
to see
actually.
it. They flipped the armor though. This time it's that guy that's armored, the laser guy. He also has the speed increase. There was one satyr in the middle wave. That's right. He has the speed increase. Also, look at the range on the uppercut. He was like darn near in the middle of the thing, and I hit him with the uppercut.
Good thing you could.
Yeah, I mean, I do have my cast. I could do a nice 100 every 7 seconds.
Okay.
Probably longer than that. It's probably like 15 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't know. As you can see, I've had my cast for I think all of Elysium and all of Styx, and just haven't used it. Alright. Yeah, so okay, we got little rats now, so that's nice. That's free health. Right. 7 health per little rat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is 2 guys. Oh, I used my cast. Look at it go.
They just gave me a good laugh.
Oh wow, that's
It's anatomy and physiology, Quinn.
that's a bad decision there. Look at the lasers that they're putting out. This is crazy. I know we immediately went from a little side conversation there, but just look at like, so you know that they do 2 per hit, and just look how many are there. So like if I happen to get hit by that like section, that's like 4 of them doing 2 damage per like millisecond,
Yeah.
I reckon.
God damn. Oh
Like
my
that?
goodness. Just like quick solar beams.
Yeah. Quick solar beams. Solar beams take 2 RPG turns. Unless they're quick, and then they take 1. I think the other benefits package that they have is the laser between enemies, I believe. Unless that's something unique to them. But if it's the lasers between enemies, I haven't noticed that actually taking effect. Like, they're not lasering with the rats. They could be lasering with each other,
Yeah.
but that's point. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it took effect there for a
Yeah,
second.
yeah, I see.
So thankfully, that's pointless. Imagine if they had like the one that makes them do extra damage, right? Then they would be doing 4 per hit. Yeah, this room. So not only did we not get the Satyr sack, for clarification, in the second room, we also got just some long drawn out rooms. And it's kind of, I'm in a dilemma, as you can see there. They do move forward at times. They won't just chill in place, which I was glad they moved right there. And they don't have armor, so now I can stop their attack. But before they did that, I kept like taking moments out of my circle strafe to like try and get a hit in, and it almost always got me hit as well. And it was like, yeah, I could go with the route of like just trying to take out all the other enemies and then slowly do them, but I was trying to sneak some hits in. And it's not like the other enemies were even causing me to get hit when I did that. It was just them getting their attack off so fast. Because again, the speed buff that they have from benefits package affects their attack as well. So they start doing their attack sooner. Thankfully, this should be
Yeah, this is the last wave, right?
this should be the end of this. Hopefully. And a lot of rats there to recover health. And this is why I don't understand why Draining Cutter is not good. Like, I just suffered poorly in a room, and I got a lot of rats to heal me all back. This is why I prefer main boss tunnels, though they are bad for no boom runs because there's only one wave. Yeah, if you were like looking to go faster or anything, I could see the mini boss runes, but like, as much as this was tedious and painful, a mini boss could have just actually defeated me, you know? It's crazy to think, and this is just, you know, me singing the praises of Draining Cutter, but I'm at 243 after that room that we just watched me suffer through. That was a pretty good Charon.
Thank you.
And I will take another not boss room, hoping that I can get a half decent one. I should have known at this point. I was like, well, you know it's going to be lasers and rats if it's not the Satyr Sack, right?
Yeah, dude.
They even started the first tunnel with lasers, right?
Man, I want to be a voice actor. Being a voice actor would be so fun.
I think voice actors are so cool. I don't know how fun it would be to be one, you know?
It'd be so
Could be a
fun.
grueling and difficult job, but I think they're cool as heck. So they get that from me. They get that from me? What am I, their parent? Okay. We got lasers again. Just want to make sure everybody's aware.
I think they can see. It'd be weird if there were some blind people watching the stream.
But I don't know if anybody's just like, you know, you may not be paying the most attention in the world. You're just chilling,
That's
right?
That's true.
Some background noise, waiting for interesting insights. The insights are we got lasers again. To be fair, in these smaller rooms, they're more manageable. Obviously, again, I just healed myself up to 295, so.
See, White, I think that's my problem. I lack commitment with most things.
Thankfully, these guys spawned in a really good spot. I think I try to, yeah, see, and we talked about how the fade is important for like not getting hit on the uppercut, but the fade is also important that I can hit multiple enemies because it like extends the length of the hit. So basically there was 3 of them and they weren't lined up where I could uppercut all 3 of them in a straight shot, but I could like fade sideways and hit all 3. And I think when you hit one, I don't know for certain, but I think when you hit one, similar to like in Smash Bros. This happens, when you hit an enemy with the attack, the like attack takes longer, like it stays out longer, and you could hit another enemy if you're doing like free for all. I think it works that way in this. If I hit an enemy, it like draws out the attack versus missing, but I could be wrong. It just feels that way. All right, what are we getting from the shop? Whoa, actually, like,
Oh, that's great.
that was like one of the few things. Well, no, that's not true. A lot of things would have been beneficial. Like even the traps one, I think there's no reason for me not to take. I think I take all 3. There's just no reason not to.
Yeah.
I mean, I have 4 summons now, so like I should be comfortable, like guaranteed to use a summon on every single room, and we don't have a sack on the 3rd room either.
Whoa.
So.
I mean, at least they're not rats and lasers.
Yeah, you make a good point. I don't know what their second. So actually, I'm curious about this. With benefits package, my understanding was when you have benefits package 2 on, every enemy gets 2 benefit packages, but I only notice 1 for them. Like I don't notice anything by their health bar, which is where you'll normally see it, and the only thing I'm noticing is like the little shield. Maybe they have a double dose of that. I don't know. I don't know.
Dang.
What?
You didn't get a sack again.
Yeah, that just like, you just realized?
Well, I realized after White mentioned
Yeah, this is the final room this route. So obviously, again, like those guys they're similar to the urns where they're just like throwing the projectile top. They're more manageable than the laser guy, so it was good to have the laser guy isolated down there and just have to avoid their attacks in the meantime. Although I shouldn't even say isolated because those guys don't have a physical attack, so having them up close wouldn't even be a problem. If you couldn't tell there, that guy died to a trap. It was just like off screen. I was just down here chilling, and then it starts a new wave.
Yeah.
We got an armored satyr and a laser guy, so less than ideal. My traps do more damage to enemies. I just think it's interesting. If you look right there, trap does 3,600 to that enemy, because it does an additional 500%, and by default it does like 600 or something like that. So. Interesting. Always with the lasers. Yeah, and this laser has extra health. I mean, honestly, that's better than him getting the speed one that he got from before. I wonder if this goes to waste. It does. Okay. Wait, no, it didn't. I saw the armored guy get hit by a trap, and I thought that was the second hit of Achilles. No, I think they both hit somebody who could take damage. So a theme of me using Achilles in these rooms has been that I use it when they still have the blue hearts. So. But obviously these guys, they have the connecting laser, which is very manageable with them specifically in this situation. And then they also have the extra armor. So Wi-Fi, are you saying that there can only be one benefits package armored enemy per room? Because I just assume that every enemy that has armor gets benefits package. Interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah. This is Zagreus doing a clawed uppercut. All right, here we go. All right, so what do we get here? Hopefully cast. All right, yeah. You'll see when I get cast, that's almost always immediate take, right? Oh no, guys, I can't use my cast in the Hades fight. It's gonna make it take so much longer now. What? How am I gonna get my damage? All right, let's do that. I don't know why I keep going to his shop. I just honestly don't. I guess it's just like a reprieve, right? You see a familiar face, you see a pleasant face, and then you're like, well, we're off to see the wizard.
I think most store owners would just be like pretty annoyed by you. You just walk in like, I just needed to see a familiar face. You do that every day.
Yeah. Well.
Every day after work, you go, I just wanted to see your face.
Hey, man.
Guy behind the register.
Specifically if it is the store owner, like you know that he's the only one there at that time.
It's like, God damn it, get out of my store.
But no, Wi-Fi makes a good point in chat. I'm gonna have to do a boon sacrifice eventually, right? So obviously I'm not gonna do dash. What would be ideal, something we haven't seen in a run, would be if I could get one of the gods' calls. That would be fantastic, right? Because then you just have to not press the call button, which is fine.
Yeah.
But that has not happened in any of the runs that we've recorded so far. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. I don't.
Actually surprised.
It might function like a tier 2, and where they want you to have attack special cast first, at least one of those first.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if that's the case or not. Like Wi-Fi said, I could also get a purging pool. They can appear in Styx rooms. I don't think that it does. I feel like they don't have very good RNG to appear. I know that they can, but I feel like I don't see them very often. I don't think I saw them in any of these runs. So this one has extra life because naturally it's a laser in this Styx run. And then it also has the thing that that makes me move slower when I'm near it. Which honestly, I think may be like the best case thing for benefits package for me. Like I don't see how it's a threat because it doesn't affect my dashing away. As you can see, we pause there with the realization that the 4th room will not have the Satyr Sack. Which means the first thing that means is that the 1st room will not have a Satyr Sack. The second thing that means is that I have to fight a boss in these conditions.
Oh my god.
And we have middle management on, which means that what that does for the Styx enemy mini bosses is that there's 2 of them in any room. So you see our friend here, and he'll be joined by our friend here, which is the giant mini boss rat. And they will still have their regular ads, which thankfully in this case, the regular ads saved my life because they're the regular rats that I can get health from.
Okay.
Unfortunately, as you see here, when I kill them with my uppercut, I get 7 HP. But you can hit enemies into other enemies and they do like collision damage. That doesn't count as killing them with my uppercut. That's actually something for anybody who's not familiar. You can use like Poseidon or the shield and you can do a lot of like enemy hitting into enemies. It's similar to hitting them into a wall. I think hitting them into each other does more damage by default though. Yeah, it says body slam on the screen. You can see right when I unpause there. So
I mean, you still got a lot of health back though.
Yeah, the Mega Satyr there, we, as in me and anybody who would like to be considered a friend of mine, we do not like the Mega Satyr there, right? We don't rock with him. But yeah, he shoots a ton of poison, and as you can see, it does. Each one that hits you does poison damage. So I got hit by 7 of them, so I took 7 poison damage per second.
I mean, yeah, you're still getting a net gain in health though.
Yeah, and that's only because of the rats, thankfully.
Yeah.
I'm also not doing a ton of damage to them. Obviously, they got hit with the Achilles, and that's another thing that I should have pointed out. I did the Achilles early. You want to get the maim on them, but then you want to pop the Achilles as soon as possible so that the little rats aren't in the fight yet. I didn't know that the little rats were going to be the ads. I don't know if it varies or not, but I personally don't know by heart what ads are for what bosses in Styx. So I didn't know that it was going to be the little rats, but I knew that they would get ads, right? It's always 2 bosses and ads. So. Yeah, I'm kind of just dashing back and forth between the healing things. I think the little rats are always for the dire satyr. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. It would make sense for them to have ones that fit the boss fight, right? But yeah, the idea here is obviously to get health from the little rats, to dash back and forth between the poison cure, because when you use one, you can't use the same one again for an amount of seconds, and to get as much damage as I can. Now that the satyr there, the satyr mini boss, doesn't have armor, that's why I was spending so much time fighting him. I was like, so long as the rat is away from me, I'm gonna get my damage in. But yeah, I think without the ads in this fight might have been the end of the run.
Yeah.
And instead, and this is why I don't understand, again, maybe it's just me. Maybe I just love draining Cutter. But like, if it wasn't for draining Cutter, this is the end of the run. Instead, I'm leaving it with full health.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a drastic difference.
It's definitely like really helpful situationally, and specifically for this kind of run too.
Hey, I did get a call.
call.
Yeah, I didn't know that by heart. Oh, I will say on stream, now that I've completed this challenge that I gave myself of doing all 6 weapons, there were times where I took Hydraulic Might, which looks kind of bad, but it's deal withable, right? All you have to do, deal withable. I keep saying deal withable. Manageable? Manageable. I like deal withable. I'll do what I want. There's times where you
wait 10 seconds when you.
Yeah, you just walk into a room and wait 10 seconds, and there's a visual cue on the screen. Like it shows a little puddle underneath you, a little Poseidon puddle, little Poseidon puddle, a little pee-pee, right?
Little pee-pee.
You just wait 10 seconds and then you go about it, and that's fine. Even for a boss fight, 10 seconds isn't that bad. You just dodge around, right? Many times, as many meaning more than one, I lost a run because I got in a room and instinctually just went and attacked the first enemy I saw. And mind you, with damage control, the attack didn't do damage, but I still counted that as using the boon, and so I quit the run.
Let's make some waves, right, Uncle?
I don't know what the official thing is as far as the high heat leaderboard, the high heat seal leaderboard. I don't know what the official ruling is for like the high heat leaderboard, because like technically I didn't benefit from a boon if I like just hit their damage control while having that active, but I didn't do it. Like I didn't count it.
I don't think I've ever gotten a run where I had to do all 5 rooms, and you got it on the worst possible circumstances.
Yeah. I mean,
I probably have, just don't remember. But
again, thankfully, well, the odds like go down over time. Like, it becomes more and more unlikely. It's not like even likeliness to get 2 through 5. It's like 2 is the most likely, 3 is the next most likely.
Not now.
oh wow.
Sometimes you get a little anxious and you try to get in the well before you even can. And again, there's just no reason not for me to take everything here. Like even the 14 gems that aren't going to benefit me this run. Sure. Sometimes you're 66 minutes into a run. You just want to take a breather, right? It happens to all of us.
Man, you had to have been so upset at this point too, having to be the 5th room.
Yeah, I will say that you said like worst of circumstances. Thankfully, I'm using something that can increase my health. If I was doing a run that didn't have that, that'd be very unfortunate.
Damn. The chance to get a sack after the 2nd tunnel goes up by something like 55% per tunnel. That's insane that you got 5 rooms in.
Dang, guys, by the 5th one, it's like 255% chance you're gonna get it.
That's not how.
It's not only is it a bad joke, the math wasn't even right.
Wow. Oh. There we go.
But yeah, so you know, good old 5-sack, mirrorless, boonless, 32 heat with the gloves that I think most people would generally say are one of the worst weapons for doing this kind of challenge. It's a good time.
Damn deck of testes.
Yep. You know, we all know them. I was trying to think of something to follow up. We all know them. You know, we all have them. We all love them. I didn't want to go with either of
We all got
those.
ton of them.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Choking on a drink. I don't recommend it. What I was gonna say though was we did know that the sack was gonna be in this one, thankfully. What Whitefire pointed out there, the multiplicative. Yeah, no, I'm gonna stick with the first one.
No.
What Whitefire said there, as opposed to additive, that applies to a decent amount of thing in Hades. Just again, for anybody who's like a beginner, just kind of playing through the game, you'll notice when using like Aphrodite or something, and it does like a big percentage increase, that like trying to stack things on top of that over time and make it like so strong, it's not really that great of an idea, right? Because it doesn't do what you think it does. All right, so obviously everybody else already reacted to and saw this, but I kind of only have one choice here.
Worst. That's the worst.
I know Whitefire in chat actually referenced earlier, like, oh, you'll probably get rid of special. I will say this is not the worst. I'm thankful to still have special for two reasons.
Yeah.
One, it does maim, and two, it heals me. And the skulls that Hades send out count as enemies. So he always has ads, not just the first phase when he summons like armored enemies. Those skulls give me 7 health per skull. So I was very thankful to not be attack only. That would be significantly harder.
A whole entire sack of something.
But yeah, thankfully going into
10 testicles, that's what it is.
What? What are we talking about?
He just
Oh, the sack. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, he said a whole entire sack of something.
Oh.
It's 10 testicles.
I naturally I zipped back over to the rooms over there like, hey, do you guys think I should do one more? Because, you know, when you get the sack, you can still do rooms, right?
And snack.
Oh god, what is going on with the audio right now?
I don't know.
Is stream audio okay? Because my audio is not.
Yeah, audio's fine for me. Is it me that's bad for you or like the game?
It's the game. You're actually perfect. It's probably just the Discord.
Oh, hopefully it fixes
Here,
itself.
I'm gonna hop off real quick and come right back. See
Okay,
if it fixes it.
I'll be here.
I owe you one, boy.
And I'll be owing Cerberus one. I do think it's cute for anybody who just never noticed, because like I remember when I got the, what's called it, the lunchroom. What is that area called in the Hades house where like everybody hangs out?
Cafeteria? Is that what it is? Lounge?
Lounge is yeah, lounge sounds right. But yeah, in that area, like when you first unlock it, Cerberus had destroyed it. Like he had brought his reckoning upon it. That wasn't a better clarification than just saying destroyed. But like it's supposed to look destroyed with his marks and everything. And like I was so early in the game and I immediately bought the things that cleaned it up that I didn't realize that like the scratch marks that you see on the ground right there where Cerberus just was, the little red like scratches. Though I don't know if they're scratches or his fur, but either way, they were also in the lounge. It's just, that's when he makes a mess somewhere. And this again is A, me not caring about the clock, and me and me B, taking a breather. I just watch the clock go up. I just want any speedrunners who decide to check me out. First of all, thank you. You know, I hope you're doing well. But secondly, just watch the clock in the top right corner. You know? You love to see it, right? Man, it almost sounded like for a second there you didn't love to see it.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Look, I'm having a good time. I put in way too much work for this. All right, guys, it's time to check the video file. We're going into this fight with 73 minutes. What takes longer, the Hades fight or the room with 3 rats, 3 waves of rats?
Then come.
But yeah, no, having the uppercut heal me for destroying the skulls is something super beneficial for me going into this. Yeah, Wi-Fi makes a good point. And the double dashes were super beneficial. And the fact that I had 355 health. So going into this, even though I was very limited, I also did have whatever those magic items are. Not magic items, whatever those passive items are that I got from Charon Shop. So going into this, I don't want to say I was like confident. But like, even though it was long and tiring, and being like to talk about how like when I do these difficult challenges, oftentimes, like I don't want to say I trivialize them into being, but like the challenges that I get myself into end up becoming like endurance tests. But yeah, other than that aspect and like being fatigued from all of it, again, I don't want to say I was confident, but I wasn't necessarily worried as you might think given all the bad circumstances. Like in the moment, this doesn't feel like worst case scenario. Like I have full health and I can have a healing special.
Right.
It is unfortunate to not have the attack for the summons because that was my way of depleting armor. And I think I've mentioned this either I or Whitefire has mentioned this every one of the recordings we've done of this, but the Hades summons have disproportionately high armor than they should and disproportionately small health than they should. So they are like all armor, no health.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, the Gilgamesh dash makes that so easy, and that's another thing that I've talked about, like for boonless. Again, just for like if you're considering a weapon for boonless, or like if you're just thinking about boonless in general, that's something that makes boonless so much easier to me. Is with Gilgamesh, like that's something that makes Gilgamesh a good weapon for people that don't like Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
Even outside of like people that use it with boons and they're like, oh, you can do damage with your dash, with Poseidon, and so on and so forth. It's like you can just avoid attacks. You don't have to have the mirror or get a Hermes upgrade. You can just avoid attacks with it. I talked about this, I believe, to being off stream, but it's like the dash in this game, or maybe it was at the beginning when I did dash, but yeah, it's like functionally it's like a long dash as opposed to being 3 dashes.
Yeah. We talked about that earlier in the stream.
I will say, again, now that I've done this challenge of mine, I can put myself on blast as much as I want. I talked about how like I ruined the 10-second Poseidon thing runs. I also ruined a run by meaning to press the call Achilles button and instead pressing the God call button.
Oh no.
So that's something that happened. For clarification for anybody who doesn't know or isn't familiar, on default controls, one of those 2 things that I just said is L2 and one of them is R2, or whatever the Switch equivalent is. They're like ZL or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, one of my passives that I have from the Charon Shop is making backstabs do extra damage. So that's just another way to do extra damage. That's like a nice thing to have, right?
Watch you do a ton of just triangle.
Yeah. But honestly, again, I don't feel like my damage output is bad. One thing that I will clarify for anybody who doesn't know, if you put a status effect on Hades in this fight, like if you were even using boons, like if you just put chill on him from Demeter, and he does his darkness teleport where he goes off screen, he clears all of those out. Like, so if you have poison on him, he doesn't take poisonous when he's away, and he gets rid of it immediately. That also affects maim. He won't take the 400 maim damage if he disappears before it, which makes this fight take longer than it needs to. Obviously, I talked about how killing the skulls can get me health, but it's kind of hard to do when he's fighting you.
Yeah.
It's nice when he puts the skulls out and then he disappears away. It's hard. This is a backfire of maim. So I've talked about before how like maim, I don't think I talked about it on this stream, but if you hit with maim, I do think I mentioned this earlier. It's 80 damage plus 400, right? Just for that one dash uppercut. So you're doing one attack that's functionally doing 480 damage. Now, it's not something that you can do over and over. You don't just get a guaranteed 480 damage every time you do that attack. But in the isolated situation, that one attack itself does 480 damage. That's pretty good, right? That's probably the single strongest thing that a single attack can do. The problem is, again, like Hades can teleport away from it with his darkness thing. And also, the skulls, if you don't get to them in time, they're not going to get hit by the 400. So it's nice that your attack does 480, but for the skulls it only does 400 before they'll trigger themselves. But even in spite of the fact that I don't think I've been able to heal myself at all, even though I referenced that coming in, I also don't... I don't think I've really needed it so far. I think this is going fairly well. We're like a third of the way through the first health bar, and we've only taken 50 damage.
Yeah. Doing alright.
And obviously, like, I'm guaranteed to... That's another thing. I don't have to worry about accidentally doing an attack. Not that that should be a worry anyway, but I am guaranteed to every enemy that I do defeat will give me health.
Yeah.
So, like, I will get a guaranteed 14 health from those 2 summons.
Well, not unless they die from slam. But
Oh.
that's unlikely.
Yeah. Took me a second to even register what yours. So the guy popping out of the ground, he can't be slammed because he can't be moved. Oh, I forgot I had the health dropping thing. Look, he just dropped 16 health.
Oh, nice.
I don't know how he dropped 16. How did he drop 2? Did I kill a skull or something as well?
Maybe.
I'm actually curious. Where is he at? There he is. No. I don't know.
Yeah, he just dropped 2.
I didn't know that
Weird.
was a thing that could happen. Well, alright guys, the devs cheated for me. I don't know, you know. I'm taking advantage of the system.
They were just on their server watching you play and like, this dude's like, he needs some help, even though you don't at all.
He put in so much work. He deserves it. But yeah, like you said, other than like the slam thing that you mentioned.
Yeah, White's right. The run's invalidated. You got to do it again.
Well, it is what it is. I'll try and get another 5-stack for you guys. We'll commentate it again. So, and I mention this every time that we watch the Hades fight, but once you get to no summons on the screen, the first phase is like very manageable. It's very, I don't like using the word easy. There's not really anything. If I get hit by, it's my own. If I get hit in this with no summons, it's my own over-eagerness. Something I forgot to mention with the Pact. I know we didn't talk about the Pact too much, but the Pact was generally like I said, making enemies harder for me. The other half of the Pact strategy, and this is a strategy that I take into a lot of roguelikes generally with like builds, and the Pact in itself is kind of like a build, you know, going in, is to make the boss fights as manageable as possible. So I don't have very many things. Like I don't have the thing that speeds up enemies, so he's not sped up. I don't have Extreme Measures 4, so he's not boosted by that. I don't have the Hard Labor, so he doesn't do extra damage. So this fight is basically the same as like a regular run. Not literally, but you know, close to it.
Well, I mean, regular run that you don't do a cast or attack or a call.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. A regular run for the enemy, not for me.
Yeah.
Like he's not boosted by anything. I'm limited by things, but. And as you can see, I'm at full health now because I was able to get one of the skulls. And the amount of max health that I have, and the fact that, because I think well, not I think, I know that the sword has a hammer that heals you as well, but I think it does like 2 damage for each attack or something like that. But it's a set number. It's not 2%. The fact that the gloves one is percent based is nice too, because like 7 damage, that's a chunky amount of health, or 7 health, that's like damage. That's a good amount of health for just defeating a single enemy, especially like I said with the rats earlier. That's crazy. Yeah, and as Whitefire mentioned in chat, there's also another drawback for using that specific one that I just referenced for the sword.
Oh.
This one has no drawbacks, and like I said, is percent based. So that's nice. I don't know if I actually lost a run doing this. It may have been like when I first started trying this forever ago. But I do remember having the call the first time that it pops on the screen. It's like you can press your call by using R2, or it's like gauge full R2 or something like that. Like my instinct reached towards it.
Just immediately hit it, yeah.
Right.
Just seeing like the fire down bottom, I'm like wanting to hit the button.
Well, seeing the fire down bottom, I'm wanting to use my boost and burnout. You know. I like how I go for like a cross game joke and you just give it the casual.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I understood immediately, so.
And
love burning.
For me specifically, I should clarify that it wouldn't be when it first pops up at like a quarter bar, my finger wouldn't have been tempted to press it way back when. I think I've talked about this on stream, or if I haven't, when I use the God Gauge, and I know this isn't necessarily the best use, and I know a lot of people love like Smoldering Air, for instance. which just limits your bar down to 1 but makes it automatically fill up for anybody who's not familiar. I think it's like a duo boon between gods or something. But for me personally, I like using the max fill. Like, I forget that I even have calls during the regular fights. I've gotten better at that over time. But for the longest time, it's just a super move to me, right? It's not a segmented special move. But yeah, this fight may take long, but between draining Cutter and the extra dashes, as this fight wasn't too worrying or challenging.
Yeah, you're pretty much guaranteed to win just because of how much health you gain back.
Well, well, I would like to say there's still a little bit of execution on my part, right? Especially once he doesn't have his summons anymore, and if he doesn't put out necessarily a lot of skulls, and he does chunky damage in the second phase as well, right? Between the lasers and the attack that does 40 that he spends, which he has in the first phase as well. But yeah, it's funny because I was talking earlier about how like the end, the beginning, you don't necessarily know which part's the hardest because you're not getting better, but like you're getting more health zones. This is kind of like I said when a regular person has a run and the final boss fight becomes trivialized.
Yeah.
You know, my build of 1 hammer kind of did that. Well, 1 hammer and a lot of max health, because again, it affects the percentage, and also just literally the amount of max health you can get. Because like if I only had 100 health right now, even if I could heal, that would still be a little more worrying. You know, that's 3 hits.
I'm trying to figure out if the pause screen music is removing some instruments or if it's just a low pass filter, just how severe it is. You just can't hear the high end stuff.
I don't know what you're talking about. The pause screen is just entirely quiet.
What? No, it's the same music. It's just being affected. I think it's just a low pass, just really severe one.
Whitefire says he believes it removes specific instruments.
See, I think it might be that, but I think they're just, the instruments exist. I mean, we're gonna go fucking music production stuff, but I just exist in such a high range that the low pass just gets rid of them anyway.
So, like functionally the same thing either way.
Yeah.
That is an unfortunate situation if you're not using the Gilgamesh gloves. It's not impossible, but getting the double waves like that, I think there may have been actual runs that I've shown on stream already that like that's caused me problems. Because with only 1 dash, especially one that's very paused, kind of hard to get through that. Those weren't as close together as other examples have been, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
It's funny because normally this attack that he does here, where he shoots 1 skull up, 1 skull down, and then he like dash attacks towards you. He's doing it right now. He shot 1 up, 1 down, then he dash attacks towards you. Wow, look at the blood trail on that. This is usually like one of the least favorite attacks for him to do because it puts out 2 things that I have to deal with, and then he still comes and fights you. But again, given this, seeing skull is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I have full health, so there's no reason for me to do it now. But especially with him putting them so far apart, so he can only really be in the area of 1 at a time. So depending on which way he which route he takes around the pillar, I can go to the other one. I wonder if that'll get the skull. I think it will. Yeah, okay. So if you get the...
Oh, nice.
I mean, I didn't need it, but it did make the skull not attack, so that's nice. But yeah, so that was kind of just like me learning. If you do the maim early enough, it will take effect on the skull. But I think I did it like darn near at the very beginning of it being out. Yeah, this is the fun part of the fight, but this is the free part of the fight. This is when we're in Ratland now. Everybody, welcome to Chuck E. Cheese's. We're in Ratland. Because this is the part where it's just tedious, but you know what you're watching. It's similar to when I was just uppercutting the rats over and over.
Not relevant, but Chuck E. Cheese's, I don't know if you've ever been. It is a hellhole.
Well, then it's fitting for being Hades.
You're right. It very much is. It's like one of the worst places somebody could be.
Chuck E. Cheese's, if you're listening, please do note that was my guest that said that. I'm here for you.
Please still consider me for sponsorship.
Yeah, look, man. You know how many positive things I can think of to say for you?
If Chuck E. Cheese ever sponsored a streamer, that'd be so funny.
I'd be honored to be the first one. I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know if sometimes when you get him, his health bar is empty, you'll see here, he still keeps coming at you, and like sometimes he'll put like a ring out for his spin attack, or he'll do things like his laser attack when you're halfway through the second phase. I don't know if he can attack, or if like he's just waiting and then eventually he'll do his kneel. Like he's waiting to get close enough to me, or I don't know what he's waiting for, but I always continue to avoid him. I don't just confidently stand still knowing he'll go to a kneel. This is a long break. For anybody who doesn't know, I am trying to advance it through the pause screen. But again, not the most threat in the world, but you can see that even the Switch went into its dark screen mode. Oh. So, all right, there we go. Again, 90 minutes into a run, I think I've earned the right to breathe a little bit. But no, this should be interesting because he no longer has summons, so I don't have to worry about that. But he does have new attack patterns, right? I think I don't know if the second phase is necessarily easier. Yeah, you'll see I maim him and then immediately do Achilles, so that both of them can hit for 1875.
Is that effect over his head? Is that like a predetermined animation, or is that like an emergent animation, like algorithmically defined with a bunch of different, I forget the term for it, like similar stuff to how like the water stuff or the water effect in Super Mario Galaxy works? How it's like a bunch of different like patterns over top of each other, so it makes it a water effect without much processing power.
I don't know.
I don't even know if what I'm saying makes much sense, but
yeah, I think like I was saying, I don't know if this fight is easier. I guess it depends circumstances, right? But I do think this version of the fight, the second health bar, is substantially more fun because he doesn't run away. And you're not fighting the same summons that you've been, well, they're not literally the same as we've established, but you're not fighting the same regular enemies, right? You are fighting him, and he doesn't run away, which is important to the amount of damage output that you can do. So this second wave, or second health bar, almost always goes faster. I don't even think that's just me. I think no matter how you're playing the game, right? Even if you're speed running. The fact that he just doesn't go away lets you get things off. As you'll see here, especially easy with Gilgamesh, but you can get behind the 3-wave, and you can do that with 1-2 for anybody who's just playing. When he gets to half health, he'll change to like a circle wave, a wave that attacks in all directions. But when he's just doing the 3-1, you can easily dash behind it. You can still hit him with the second phase one, but it's just easy to do for this one. So that was another example of he didn't do his laser attack because I think he died from that maim that he just took. And he was going to do that attack, but then he doesn't. And his shield pops up for half a second, and now we're in phase 2. So I feel like he acts a little weird when he dies from maim. It's weird that he tells me to get out of his sight, and then I just literally do that by hiding behind a pillar, and it works.
I'm going to count now. Now you hide.
He is a father. That does kind of work, right? I will give you 10 seconds. Thank you. Honestly, I feel like, well, no, it definitely is. I was going to say, I feel like this fight isn't taking that long, especially with how long I'm pausing. Like, the video file, it may be long, but...
Oh, thanks, White. That actually answers my question exactly.
I feel like especially this, I feel like the second phase of the fight is not taking very long.
No, the second phase is going by quick as anything.
I also feel like I've been at full health more than I haven't in this fight. Well...
You say that.
Well... I wonder... Does anyone know why did that... Oh, never mind. Nope, I got my own answer. I was going to say, why did that do 60? Because normally it does 40, and I don't have hard labor or anything on. It goes back to something I've mentioned that's barely been relevant. This is actually relevant to you saying enemies do a lot of damage. Maimed enemies do extra damage.
Oh, that's right.
So he did 60 instead of 40, so they do, there you go, 150% of normal damage. So that could have been taking effect on, especially on the rats when they were doing like 38, because that's an odd number for them to be doing, right? And this is me deciding that I'll take advantage of this and get like one hit off during it.
Wow, you actually did it.
Yeah.
I was actually just about to mention that you weren't doing that.
Yeah. I felt pretty comfortable at this point in this run, so. Not comfortable enough to do it every time, but.
Even though you had the perfect opportunity, you were right there.
I don't know, it's kind of, my worry is that you have to be in a specific spot. Like, obviously you can't be too far away, but you also can't be too close, or not too close. You don't want to teleport like behind him with your dash. I don't know, I didn't feel like I was at the perfect dash range. I like to be comfortable to know that attack's coming and like walk perfectly in place without bouncing off and going a little bit to the side or anything. I'm sure there's other people that much more confidently do that than I do, but. And at this point, I was like kind of debating. I was like, I don't really need this health. I could, you know, as especially speedrunners say, health is a resource. So.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff all at once there.
Yeah, this.
Sorry, you got this in the bag though.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed that I didn't finish the fight with full health, so I could say I finished the fight with full health, right? I beat Boonless, 32 heat, mirrorless, with full health, but no, I didn't. So.
You shrug off death as though it means nothing to you.
I don't though. I didn't use a single defiance. You shrug off death, so you're the only one to use a defiance in this fight, sir.
Once again.
But yeah, like I said,
beaten once again.
I like the Gilgamesh gloves. They were actually, I don't know if I mentioned this on stream yet before. They were the first weapon that I ever did 32 heat with, and I thought that it was surprisingly easy. So, you know, anybody, if you think that you share anything in common with the way that I've been talking about my playstyle throughout these runs, you know, if you watch this video and you're like, yeah, I kind of, you know, I feel him. I get that mindset. Maybe Gilgamesh would be the easiest weapon for you, right? I didn't even do things that I've read now about how people use it with, like I've referenced before, like the tidal dash from Poseidon or anything like that. I just used Gilgamesh and it just felt good to me, right? The fact that you have a guaranteed hit and run method, but you also just have like a damage output method, I don't know, I like it. I like Gilgamesh. He's my buddy. And fun fact, although this is considered boonless from like the high heat later, why do I want it to be a later board so bad? From the high heat leaderboard, this is considered boonless. The game does actually have little subtitles, as you can see up in the top right corner underneath victory, where it says 100% darkness free. It won't give you the like Olympian free thing for doing it boonless because I have boons. That's how the game determines its subtitle. But I did get darkness free for not using the mirror, I suppose.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty fun. A little bit tedious at times, but you know, it is what it is, right?
My final thoughts are that was a lot of rats
And lasers.
and lasers and testicles.
But yeah, it's been fun having you. You know, everybody out there, give Gilgamesh a chance. He's a decent guy.
He's regarded as the earliest surviving notable literature and the second oldest religious text after the pyramid text.
There you go. That's why we get along, him and I.
The literary history of Gilgamesh begins with 5 Sumerian poems about Gilgamesh. I bet he's like kind of how like Bill Stein is the evil guy. I bet Gilgamesh is the evil guy.